Chapter 1881. Sect Master Yunshi, please tell us. As long as we know, we will tell you. Wangmin nodded. Okay. Yunshi said, Love Valley is a sect in the northern region, while Poison Sect is a sect in the western region. If there is no enmity between them, why would they attack you? Jiang Qin sat up straight. This was what he was most concerned about. When he saw Che Shua in Love Valley, the latter was obviously searching for something. Unfortunately, this group of people kept their mouths shut and did not find out anything. Wang Min looked at heartless Qingzi, then at everyone in the hall. Their target is the treasure of Love Valley, the Ice Soul Pearl. Ice Soul Pearl? Does such a thing really exist in the immortal world? Even the knowledgeable mountain lords of the Yunshi sect were astonished when they heard this. What is the Ice Soul Pearl? Long Dade tilted his head and asked. The Ice Soul Pearl is a treasure formed by condensing the ice spiritual chi between heaven and earth. It is said that whoever owns it will be able to comprehend the most powerful ice celestial art in the immortal world. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, this item was once owned by a celestial king called Han Bing Wang. Since his death, it no longer exists. I didn't expect it to be in a small place like Love Valley. Bai Xiaoyan rubbed her chin and answered in a low voice. How do you know so much? Jiang Qin asked. These things are recorded in the pavilion. In the past, when I had nothing to do, I would look at it to relieve my boredom. Bai Xiaoyan opened her folding fan and waved it gently, pretending to be very knowledgeable. Did they succeed? Yunshi did not hear what Jiang Qin and Bai Xiaoyan said. No, the icy soul pearl is still somewhere in the sacred mountain. Wang Min said, and then closed her mouth. The icy spirit pearl was the most precious treasure of the Love Valley, and it was also the most precious treasure of the entire snowfield. She had only met Yunshi once. Although Yunshi had saved them, she still had her guard up. Otherwise, the ice-soul-chilling pearl would have been stolen countless times during the existence of Love Despair Valley. That's good. Yunshi didn't continue to ask, as long as she could figure out the purpose of the Black Poison Sect. Sect Master Yunshi, thank you for your help this time. However, our Love Despair Valley has suffered such a calamity. There must be some injured disciples in the sect. We must hurry back as soon as possible. Wang Min glanced at Jiang Qin from the corner of her eyes. Go ahead. Yunshi nodded. Naila Mayor, are you going to stay here or go back with us? Wang Min turned around and asked her little apprentice who was standing at the door. I'll follow Master back to the sect. Naila Mayor looked at Jiang Qin reluctantly. She wanted to stay by Jiang Qin's side, but she also knew that this was the time when the sect needed her the most. Let's go. Wang Min nodded in satisfaction and left the hall with all the elders and disciples. To SK, you wasted so much effort and almost got yourself into trouble. I didn't expect that she wouldn't even acknowledge you. Looking at the backs of the people from Love Despair Valley, Bai Xiaoyan sighed deeply and patted Jiang Qin's shoulder as she spoke. It's fine as long as they are safe, Jiang Qin said, smiling. What an affectionate man. Bai Xiaoyan sighed. After the people from Love Despair Valley left, Yunshi dismissed the other hill masters, leaving only Jiang Qin and the other two in Yunwei. Sect Master Yunwei, we also have to go back. Jiang Qin got up and cupped his hands at Yunshi. Well, don't forget our agreement. Yunshi put away her previous dignified appearance and revealed her true appearance of a little girl as she smiled at Jiang Qin. As long as Master comes back, I will definitely force him to see Sect Master Yunshi. Jiang Qin patted his chest and promised. Yunshi was amused by Jiang Qin's words. After bidding farewell to Yunshi, Jiang Qin and Bai Xiaoyan once again sat on Long Dade's back and returned. But this time, they were not in a hurry to return. They just followed behind the people from Love Despair Valley slowly. Now that Love Despair Valley had suffered such a calamity, and the treasures in the valley were targeted by the Poison Sect, Jiang Qin had to ensure that they could safely return to the northern region. As for the future, Jiang Qin wanted to bring all of them to the 10,000 Mounts Immortal Sect. If they insisted on not agreeing, he could only send some experts to protect them. The people from the Tianluo Palace were too weak and could not meet Jiang Qin's expectations. After about half a month, they finally returned to the northern region. After seeing the white snow in front of them, the female disciples of Love Despair Valley burst into tears. When they were taken away, they did not expect to have a chance to return. Why are you crying? Now the sect has only been destroyed, but all of us are still here. It is only a matter of time before the sect is rebuilt. And as long as the Ice Soul Pearl is here, our Love Despair Valley will still exist. Hearing the crying, Heartless Qingzi flicked his horsetail whisk and said with some annoyance. What he despised the most was the crying disciples. It did not look like a sect at all. Yes, Great Elder. The female disciples immediately wiped away their tears. They arrived at the sacred mountain. When they saw the situation in the sect again, even Heartless Qingzi's eyes turned red. The entire sect had been reduced to ruins, and there were even many disciples' corpses lying inside. After the establishment of Love Despair Valley, this was the most serious destruction it had ever suffered. If it were not for Jiang Chun, the entire sect would have been destroyed. Some of the disciples of Love Despair Valley have been placed in the town at the foot of the mountain, but they are all injured. Jiang Chun slowly walked up the mountain. When he saw all of them gathered at the mountain gate, he said in a low voice, "Thank you." Wang Min looked at Jiang Chun with a complicated expression. "It's just a small favor, and I am also here for Mei. Jiang Chun smiled and said with a shrug, "Great Elder, bring them to the town to rest first, and check on the other disciples." Wang Min said to Heartless Qingzi, who was beside her. "What about you, sect leader?" Heartless Qingzi asked. "I have something to say to him." Wang Min looked at Jiang Chun. Heartless Qingzi did not deny Jiang Chun. From the beginning of Tian Luo Palace to the current poison sect, they had been in trouble one after another. If it were not for Jiang Chun's help, Love Despair Valley would have been destroyed long ago. However, she was a little worried that with the sect leader's cultivation method, if she really had a relationship with Jiang Chun, her cultivation level would remain at the current level forever and might even regress. Heartless Qingzi brought the others down the mountain, and only Jiang Chun and Wang Min were left in the sect. "Where are your two friends?" Wang Min asked when she saw Jiang Chun standing there alone. Chapter 1882. I asked them to rest in the town. Jiang Chun pointed at the town below the mountain and said, "Okay." Wang Min walked into the sect and said as she walked, "I really didn't expect that our Love Valley would suffer such a calamity because of the Icy Soul Pearl. If it wasn't for you this time, I'm afraid the sect would have disappeared from the immortal world." "What does the poison sect need the Icy Soul Pearl for?" Jiang Chun frowned and asked. "I don't know. After we were locked in, they kept interrogating us and seemed to have sent people to search the sect. But they didn't find it, otherwise they would have killed us." Wang Min shook her head. "How unlucky." Jiang Chun couldn't help but sigh. The saying that a man's wealth is his own ruin by arousing his own greed was the truth in every plane. If not for the Icy Soul Pearl, the Love Despair Valley wouldn't have existed. Wang Min shook her head. She didn't blame the sect for being destroyed because of the treasure. She just blamed herself for being too weak to protect the treasure. "Come with me. I want to show you something." Wang Min walked into the dilapidated sect. Jiang Chun followed behind her. After entering the main hall, Wang Min found a switch and pressed it forcefully. Crack! The ground they were standing on suddenly cracked. Seeing Wang Min falling straight down, Jiang Chun hurried to jump up and hold her waist. He extended his hand, and the seven-colored sword appeared in his hand. Then he thrust it into the wall. Thanks to the cushioning effect, the two still staggered when they fell to the bottom. Cough, cough. Seeing Wang Min lying on his body and feeling the softness of her chest, Jiang Chun blushed even though he was thick-skinned. Wang Min blushed and hurriedly climbed down from Jiang Chun's body. "Sorry, the sect was destroyed and there were some problems with the mechanism. I didn't expect to fall down suddenly," Wang Min said while patting the dust off her body. "It's okay, it's nothing." Jiang Chun coughed twice. After calming down, Wang Min reached out and pressed on the stone wall in front of her. Following the rumbling sound, the stone wall suddenly split apart. A gust of cold air instantly swept out. "So cold?" Jiang Chun couldn't help but sneeze. With his full attribute immortal power, Jiang Chun should not have felt anything. However, this bone-piercing cold was somewhat unbearable for Jiang Chun. Even the blood in his body showed signs of freezing. This is where our sect stores the icy soul pearl. Wang Min walked in. Jiangchen followed them in. What entered his eyes was a crystal-clear ice space. The ice essence was so pure that it could reflect Jiang Chen's and Wang Min's figures. It was like a huge mirror. In the middle, an irregular crystal was floating in the air. "This is the icy soul pearl?" Jiang Chen asked as he stepped forward and felt the bone-piercing coldness. "Yes, I happened to meet the Ice King who was about to die and receive his recognition. I inherited the icy soul pearl and built the Love Valley. Since then, the icy soul pearl has been stored here. I thought this matter was very secretive, but I didn't expect that someone would have their eyes on it. Jiang Chen, can you keep the icy soul pearl for me?" Wang Min reached out and held the icy soul pearl in her hand. In an instant, Wang Min's entire body emitted a cold aura that made people involuntarily want to retreat. "This is your Love Despair Valley's supreme treasure. Why didn't you leave it here? Why did you give it to me?" Jiang Chen furrowed his brows slightly. He mobilized the fire element immortal power in his body to resist the chill. "Our Love Valley doesn't have the strength to protect it, but you have countless immortal kings around you. Instead of leaving it here and being targeted by others, it's better to give it to you. I believe you have the strength to protect it," Wang Min said as she held the icy soul pearl in front of Jiang Chen. "That may be so, but..." Jiang Chen wanted to refuse, but after seeing Wang Min's serious expression, he could only agree. "All right, then I'll keep it for you. If you need it in the future, feel free to contact me." Wang Min nodded. Jiang Chen reached out and took the icy soul pearl. Just as he was about to put it into his storage ring, his entire body was suddenly frozen. "Jiang Chen?" Wang Min was a little anxious when she saw this strange scene. Although Jiang Chen didn't cultivate their Love Valley's cultivation method, it shouldn't have been to this extent. Moreover, she could clearly sense that Jiang Chen had immortal power of the water attribute in his body, and the ice attribute was a variant of the water attribute. No matter how she looked at it, Jiang Chen shouldn't have been affected by the icy soul pearl's backlash. "You're kidding me, right?" the fugitive asked tentatively as he looked at Jiang Chen in the ice. However, what answered him was Jiang Chen's unmoving eyes and the icy aura emanating from his body from time to time. "Seal of ice." Wang Min was a little anxious. She formed a seal with her hands, and immortal power erupted from her body. She wrapped Jiang Chen tightly. She wanted to remove all the ice around Jiang Chen's body. However, when her immortal power was about to approach Jiang Chen, it was suddenly repelled. She could feel a repulsion from the icy soul pearl. "Jiang Chen." Wang Min took a few steps back, her breathing a little chaotic. When she was at her wit's end and was about to turn to Bai Xiaoyan for help, the ice around Jiang Chen started to fall off gradually. Jiang Chen, who was in the ice, woke up. "You scared me to death." Seeing that Jiang Chen had recovered, Wang Min finally relaxed. "This icy soul pearl is quite interesting." Jiang Chen played with the item in his hand. He could no longer feel the coldness from it. In the short period of time when he was frozen, he had already comprehended the immortal technique within it. 1,000 miles of ice. Wang Min scrutinized Jiang Chen. Seeing that Jiang Chen was fine, she continued, "That's strange. When my disciples touched it, they never reacted like you did. I thought you were going to be devoured by it. Maybe it's because I have immortal power of different attributes in my body," Jiang Chen said casually as he put the icy soul pearl into his storage ring. I'll leave the icy soul pearl to you. This way, even if a sect like the Poison Palm sect comes, even if our Love Despair Valley is destroyed, the icy soul pearl will not be affected." Wang Min nodded. "Your Love Despair Valley should be merged with the 10,000 Mounts Immortal Sect. This way, I can do my best to protect you. You are in the northern region snowfield and are too far away. I'm afraid I won't make it in time if I rush over after receiving the news." Jiang Chen took a deep breath, looked at her, and spoke in a deep voice. "No, I will never leave here." Wang Min shook her head resolutely. Chapter 1883. "Why?" Jiang Chen asked with a frown. "Maybe you've been away from the immortal world for too long, so you don't know much about the northern region. Wang Min sighed and sat on the ice. Before the Frost Immortal King died, this place used to be called the Snow Region, which existed side by side with the Northern Region. But after his death, this place fell and was eventually swallowed by the Northern Region, becoming the Northern Region Snowfield. Since I've received the inheritance of the Frost Immortal King, I naturally have to take on the responsibility of revitalizing the Snow Region. Snow Region? Jiang Chun savored the name and vaguely felt a sense of familiarity. That's right, the sects that used to belong to Shui you have all declined and disappeared. The few remaining sects have all accepted their current situation. It can be said that apart from me, there is no other sect that can take on the task of reviving Shuiyu. Wang Min said helplessly, I'll revitalize it with you. Jiang Chun pondered for a while and said, Why? Wang Min looked up at Jiang Chun. Maybe it's because Naylan Mei is in your sect, and you see her as your successor. She was once my disciple, and even though she has ascended to the immortal world, I still have to take care of her. Your Love Despair Valley should join the 10,000 Mounts Immortal Sect. Jiang Chun took a deep breath and said, Gazing at Wang Min, I don't want to leave the Snow Region. Wang Min shook her head again. You can still stay in the Snow Region. As long as you join the 10,000 Mounts Immortal Sect, I have a reason to send some experts to protect you. Otherwise, I have no reason to send people. Jiang Chun said quickly. Wang Min fell silent. She didn't want to have anything to do with Jiang Chun. But the things that happened recently made her realize that it was impossible for her to draw a clear line with Jiang Chun. She and her sect also needed his protection. Moreover, the Eye Soul Pearl had been given to Jiang Chun for safekeeping. It was unrealistic to draw a clear line. Okay, I agree. After hesitating for a while, Wang Min agreed. Ha! Jiang Chun laughed and said, When I return to the 10,000 Mounts Immortal Sect, I will immediately send a few Immortal King experts here to protect your Love Valley. Even if 2 more Poison Palm sects come looking for trouble, they will be able to hold on until I arrive. Thank you. Wang Min lowered her head. Jiang Chun's meticulous care for her made her feel as if she had returned to the past. She was also very clear that the Jiang Chun who had experienced 10 reincarnations was no longer the myriad transformation that she was familiar with. Let's go take a look at the disciples of the sect. Jiang Chun reached out to pull her arm. I can walk by myself? Wang Min shook off Jiang Chun's hand. Jiang Chun smiled bitterly and could only follow behind her with his hands behind his back. However, as soon as they came out of the secret chamber and before they could leave the sect, the fluctuations in the air caused their expressions to stiffen. Something happened in the town. Feeling the fluctuations in the aura of the elders and disciples of the sect, Wang Min left these words and quickly rushed down the sacred mountain. Standing at the top of the mountain, Jiang Chun could vaguely see the situation in the town. But presumably, the Poison Palm sect that had just been warned shouldn't be a clan in the western region. And if it was someone else who came looking for trouble, Bai Shaoyan should be able to easily deal with them. Thinking about it, Jiang Chun still quickly followed. Jiang Chun's speed was very fast. In the blink of an eye, he was close to Wang Min and stopped her outside the town. Why are you stopping me? Wang Min looked at Jiang Chun in confusion. I'm afraid that you will be too anxious and encounter danger. Jiang Chun said in a deep voice. Just based on the injured elders and disciples of our sect, if we don't hurry, I'm afraid that they will all be in trouble. Wang Min got rid of Jiang Chun and flew toward the town at high speed. Seeing that he couldn't persuade her, Jiang Chun could only follow behind her. Near the town, there was already a snowstorm. This was not ordinary snow, but completely condensed from immortal power. In addition to the disciples of the Love Valley, some ordinary people living here and the people of the Tian Luo Palace were accidentally injured. Humble class! Seeing this formation, Wang Min shouted out, Is this also your snow fields? Jiang Chun stopped. Seeing such a shocking tactical formation, he asked, Is this also a sect in your snow field? Yes, it is less than 10,000 miles away from our Love Valley and has existed for a long time. It is even possible that this sect had already appeared before the fall of the Ice King. Wang Min clenched her fists. When it rains, it pours. This kind of situation made her feel powerless from the bottom of her heart. One must know that with the strength of their Love Valley, They were not a match for the humble class. Not to mention that the sect had just suffered a disaster. Facing the humble class, there was no chance of winning. It seems that this sect has some ability. I just don't know how it compares to the poison sect. Seeing Wang Min's expression, Jiang Chen roughly understood the situation and asked. It is weaker than the poison sect, but the sect master of the humble class is also an immortal king. The protectors under him are around the half-step immortal monarch realm. Their strength is higher than our love valley. Wang Min nodded and told Jiang Chen the actual situation. On the surface, their cultivation is not bad, but I don't know how much strength they can exert. Jiang Chen smiled and rushed into the town. Immortal technique, beginning of all beginnings. Standing beside by Xiaoyun, Jiang Chen suddenly pressed his hands on the ground. Immediately, dense trees that covered the sky and the sun grew wildly, enveloping the entire town. The snowstorm could no longer corrode the town. It's so lively. I didn't expect to have a good fight after returning from the western region. Seeing Jiang Chen arrive, Bai Xiaoyan rolled up her sleeves and said with a smile, "Senior brother, don't underestimate the enemy. The sect master of the humble class is above the immortal king realm." Jiang Chen reminded in a low voice. "Immortal king it is. It's nothing." Bai Xiaoyan chuckled. Han Yin, who was in the air, was furious when the beginning of all beginnings blocked the formation. He knew that there must be experts in Love Despair Valley. Otherwise, how could those ice elemental elders display such a powerful wood elemental immortal technique? "Who are you?" He withdrew the formation and landed in front of the town. Looking at the dense forest in front of him, he asked, "Young sect master of the 10,000 Mounts immortal sect, Jiang Chen." Jiang Chen walked out from between two tree trunks, looked at him, and said lightly. After Jiang Chen came out, Wang Min also arrived. "Is it the 10,000 Mounts immortal sect that caused an uproar in the northern region some time ago?" He was a little surprised, but he still didn't lose his composure. "Jiang Chen, this is our snow region's matter. It has nothing to do with you. Leave quickly. Now that the Love Valley has joined the 10,000 Mounts immortal sect, how can it have nothing to do with me?" Jiang Chen smiled. Chapter 1884. What? The expression on Han Yan's face changed. Although he did not go to the 10,000 Mounts immortal sect that day, he had heard about how strong this new sect was. Young Master Jiang Chen had many experts behind him. Sect leader? Heartless Qingzi also looked at Wang Min. Wang Min nodded slightly. Heartless Qingzi understood, but his expression did not change. She also knew that joining the 10,000 Mounts immortal sect was the best decision for them. Only under the protection of Jiang Chen, their Love Valley could survive in the immortal realm safely. Without Jiang Chen, those sects in the western region would come back again. With their strength, they could not stop them. So what if Love Valley joins the 10,000 Mounts immortal sect? I am not here to cause trouble, but to take something back from sect leader Wang Min. After a moment of surprise, Han Yin gradually returned to normal. "What is it? Our Love Valley has been established for thousands of years, and we have never had anything to do with your humble class, let alone take something from you," Wang Min said with a cold smile. "The Ice Soul Pearl. This is the treasure of the Ice King. Your Love Valley has suffered such a disaster and no longer has the strength to protect this treasure. As one of the sects in the Snow region, I have the right to ask you to prevent the Ice Soul Pearl from falling into the hands of others. Is there a problem?" Han Yin put his hands behind his back, looked at Jiang Chen, and asked, "I am the successor of the Ice King. Naturally, I have the right to possess the Ice Soul Pearl. Even if the sect is in trouble, it will not fall into your hands. If you want it, you will only have the chance to obtain it after our Love Despair Valley falls." Wang Min knew that Han Yin was up to no good. "You were right, sect leader Han Yin. Go back to where you came from." Jiang Chen waved his hand at him. "Jiang Chen, I don't want to attack you for the sake of your father, Wan Cheng. You are the young lord of the 10,000 Creations Immortal School, and you have many experts supporting you. However, this is the snow field, and we aren't at the gate of your school." Hearing Jiang Chen's interruption, Han Yin was enraged. "Dog, I advise you to weigh your own strength before you speak. As long as our 10,000 creations immortal sect sends out a few experts, we can make your humble class completely disappear from the immortal world. Long Dade stood out and pointed at his nose as he shouted. He vented all the grievances he had suffered in the western regions in one go. Looks like you guys really won't shed tears until you see the coffin. Long Dade's words completely enraged Han Yin. He was indeed a little wary of the 10,000 mounts immortal sect. However, if he could obtain the icy soul pearl and comprehend the supreme ice attribute celestial skill in it, his strength would have a chance to jump from the 3rd stage Immortal King realm to the 5th stage Immortal King realm. At that time, even the 10,000 mounts immortal sect would not be able to do anything to him. Did I say something wrong? Long Dade shrunk back. You're right. You should be the one to deal with this kind of high-sounding villain who takes advantage of others' difficulties, Jiang Chen said with a smile. Humble class guardians, listen up. Kill everyone in the town. If anyone can obtain the icy soul pearl, I will promote him to be the new elder of the humble class. I will also let him study the eternal sin ice prison of our clan. Seeing that Jiang Chun had no intention of backing down, Han Yin shouted in a low voice. Instantly, several guardians and hundreds of disciples gathered behind him from around the town. Jiang Chun, the elders and disciples of our Love Despair Valley have almost no combat power left. Seeing that Han Yin was not holding back, Heartless Qingzi held the horsetail whisk in his hand tightly and said in a low voice, "Don't worry, I'm here to protect you." Jiang Chen looked relaxed. Now that he had comprehended the mystery of the icy soul pearl, he did not take Han Yin seriously at all. It was just like when he obtained the power of the Golden Dragon and went to the ancient Dharma Void Dragon clan. Although his cultivation was weaker, the suppression of the celestial skill was very real. Moreover, Bai Xiaoyan was here. Realm of Ice! Han Yin roared. With him as the center, the cold air quickly spread out. Although the disciples of Love Despair Valley also cultivated ice attribute celestial skills, they could clearly feel that the immortal chi in their bodies was blocked to a certain extent. Even their breathing was not very smooth. The ordinary people living in the town also felt the bone-piercing cold. If it were not for the protection of Jiang Chen's would attribute celestial skill, they would have been turned into ice sculptures in an instant. You really are something. Bai Xiaoyan pressed her palm on her chest and used her immortal chi to forcibly break through the cold air. Kill! Seeing that the people of Love Despair Valley were affected, Han Yin could not help but laugh loudly. Even my realm of ice can't block it. What right do you have to have the icy soul pearl? Hurry up and hand it over. Seeing that we are all sects of the snow region, I can let Love Despair Valley submit and let you live. How about it? Oh, is that so? Jiang Chen suddenly laughed out loud. Seal of Ice. After the laughter, Jiang Chen clapped his hands together and shouted in a low voice. Wang Min, Heartless Qingzi, and the other elders all turned to look at him. Seal of Ice. This was the celestial skill of the icy soul pearl. The celestial skill was divided into 9 levels, and each level had a celestial skill. Realm of Ice. Jiang Chen spoke again in a low voice. A wave of cold air that was even colder than the one released by Han Yin spread rapidly. Looking at the ice cones that formed on the ground, even the moisture was gradually freezing and falling to the ground. Han Yin's eyes widened. He had secretly learned the Realm of Ice before Han Bing Wang had died. The name of the celestial skill was the Realm of Ice. Back then, he had only learned half of it when he was discovered, so he did not get the essence of the second half of the scroll. After tens of thousands of years, through his own exploration and improvement, he was finally able to use it. But compared to the real Realm of Ice, there was still a big gap. Moreover, every time he used it, it would consume a large portion of his immortal chi, and it would take at least a few years to fully recover. However, seeing Jiang Chen able to exert it so easily, it was certainly hard for him to accept it. How did you? Wang Min's shock was not much less than Han Yan's. When you gave me the icy soul pearl, I happened to comprehend it. Jiang Chen chuckled. He turned his palm over, and the icicles that had been condensed in the air flew towards him. In the end, an ice bowl made entirely of ice appeared in Jiang Chen's hand. What is the name of this celestial skill? Holding the ice bow, Jiang Chun scratched his head and asked. Icy soul bow. Wang Min was going crazy. The realm of ice was in celestial skill. After she had obtained the icy soul pearl from Han Bing Wang, she had been practicing it. Now, she had only comprehended the 5th level and had no clue about the remaining 4. Chapter 1885. In the sect, the one who had the highest comprehension was only Heartless Qingzi's 4th level. But now seeing that Jiang Chun could easily display the 6th level of the Ice Soul Bow, he was naturally shocked to the extreme. Jiang Chun, I didn't expect you to have the talent to cultivate ice attribute cultivation methods. If you give me the Ice Soul Pearl and help me comprehend the Ice Seal Immortal Technique, then I will definitely respect your 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect in the future, and even let me join your sect. In addition to being surprised, Han Yan's eyes became fiery. Is that so? Jiang Chun held the Ice Soul Bow in his hand. Of course it's true, Han Yan said in a deep voice. If what you just said is true, then I can consider it. Jiang Chun laughed and said, You have already said that you want to kill us. If I agree, wouldn't I be raising a tiger and inviting calamity? Jiang Chun pulled the bowstring, tightened it, and released it. It seemed to be an empty shot, but in fact, dozens of ice forces were shot out at the same time. These ice forces shuttled in the air, absorbing all the water vapor around them. The appearance of the ice arrows gradually revealed, and when they reached the disciples of the humble sect, they had completely revealed their true form. Under the control of the extreme ice domain, these disciples of the humble sect became extremely slow. They watched the ice arrows gradually magnify in their eyes. With their strength, they could easily dodge them, but after being restricted, their whole body became sluggish. Not to mention dodging, even moving their hands and feet was very difficult. Ice Mausoleum! Seeing that the disciples were about to be hit, Han Yin shouted in a low voice. A shadow appeared. A huge tombstone fell from the sky and landed in front of them, blocking their path. Pa! Pa! The ice arrows shot on the tombstone, and under the continuous attack, the tombstone soon could not withstand and cracked. And Jiang Chen's attack also stopped. Han Yin understood. Today, either go back or kill everyone here and take the Ice Soul Pearl. Be careful, that guy's going to be serious. Bai Xiaoyan stepped forward, blocking Jiang Chen behind her. He was not at all surprised by Jiang Chen's ice attribute celestial art. During the time he had known Jiang Chen, he had already gotten used to his junior brother mastering new celestial arts every once in a while. He would be surprised if he couldn't see it. Yes, Jiang Chen replied. The tombstone disappeared, revealing Han Yin who was standing behind it. He stretched out his hand, and the disciples beside him all rushed out. Jiang Chen, you and the White Immortal King deal with Han Yin. Leave these disciples to us. Even though their bodies were still affected by the realm of ice, the commoner disciples were also affected by Jiang Chen's domain of ice. Even though the speed of both sides was slower, it was still relatively normal. Jiang Chen's extreme ice domain could restrict ordinary disciples, but it couldn't restrict Han Yin. Han Yin held the ice spear in his hand. When he stepped in the air, he stepped on the condensed ice. He strode forward. The spear in his hand was emitting a cold air. He swept it over Jiang Chen. Han Yin understood. Even though Jiang Chen's cultivation was at the 3rd level of the immortal realm, he was indeed the most difficult one to deal with. The one in white beside him was a celestial king, but under the unique conditions of the snow domain, he was no match for him. Junior brother, be careful. Bai Xiaoyan flew up on her sword and fiercely clashed with Han Yin. Jiang Chun didn't hesitate. The ice bow transformed into a long sword, and he joined forces with Bai Xiaoyan to fight Han Yin from another direction. In the small town, many people looked outside through the cracks. When they saw that Jiang Chun had comprehended a celestial skill that even their sect leader couldn't comprehend, and even blocked hundreds of disciples from the humble school by himself, they couldn't help but scream. Junior sister Mei who was brother Jiang Chun, he can fight with the celestial king at the 3rd level of the immortal realm. If he becomes a celestial king, won't he be on an equal footing with an immortal emperor? Stop dreaming. There are no immortal emperors in the immortal realm now. Even if he is a celestial king, how can he be a match for an immortal emperor? Humph! How do you know there are no immortal emperors in the immortal realm? For a moment, the disciples of Love Despair Valley were in a mess. However, almost all of their eyes were focused on Jiangchun. Only a few of them stared blankly at Bai Xiaoyun, whose white robe fluttered in the wind. Hundreds of rounds. Under the joint attack of Jiangchun and Bai Xiaoyun, Han Yin was showing signs of defeat. He was not convinced. With his cultivation at the third level of the Immortal King realm, he was forced into such a state by a second-level Immortal King realm cultivator. This was the biggest humiliation in history. Frozen ice palm. Han Yin shouted angrily. A giant ice palm appeared. He threw it toward Jiangchun. Jiangchun and Bai Xiaoyun hurriedly activated the immortal qi in their bodies to dodge. They distanced themselves from each other. Han Yin sucked in a deep breath of cold air as a formation descended from the sky. The formation was so big that even the small town was enveloped in it. After being cut off, Jiangchun's beginning of all beginnings was cut off from the outside world and quickly faded away. You have succeeded in forcing me to use the eternal sin ice prison. Han Yan's entire being became deranged. The eternal sin ice prison. It was his most powerful formation. As long as the person was enveloped in it, as long as their cultivation was lower than his, they would be frozen by the raging cold air. Even his sex protectors and disciples could not escape. Han Yin did not want to go to the extreme. However, if he did not make up his mind now, he would not be able to kill the two people in front of him. He might even be killed by them. Oh no! Looking at the formation that covered the sky, Bai Xiaoyun felt a little helpless. You even want to kill your own people? Jiangchun frowned and looked at Han Yin. If I kill you, I will naturally be able to obtain the icy soul pearl. By then, the sex strength will increase and become the strongest force in the entire snow region. Then, I will be able to recruit new disciples. Han Yin laughed. Soon, the cold air came. Even though many people were hiding in the town, they could feel the bone-piercing cold. The cold air made their bodies stiffen, and they could not even move. Jiangchun looked up and saw that Wang Min, Heartless Qingzi, and the others were also restrained. I will find the right opportunity to kill him later. However, I am afraid that there will be some casualties in the Passionless Valley and the town. Bai Xiaoyun resisted the formation and whispered to Jiangchun. No need. Jiangchun shook his head. Now is not the time to show off. Even I can't break this formation. The only chance is to kill Han Yin. Bai Xiaoyun held her long sword tightly and was ready to attack when the opportunity came. However, just as he was about to leap up, the formation loosened. Jiangchun formed a seal with both hands, and an invisible wave spread out. Chapter 1886. Suddenly, the formation that Han Yin set up shook violently, as if it was going to collapse at any time. What's going on? As the owner of the formation, Han Yin naturally sensed that something was wrong and quickly looked up. In an instant, the formation collapsed. Han Yin fell to the ground due to the backlash, his face pale. Impossible. The eternal sin ice prison was guided by an ancient immortal king. How could it collapse? Han Yin's eyes widened and trembled. He could not accept this situation. After being guided and strengthened by an ancient immortal king, even a fourth-tier immortal king or immortal king Wu Chong would not be able to escape, let alone someone with a lower cultivation. However, at that moment, he didn't feel any attack from Jiangchun or Bai Xiaoyun. The whole formation seemed to have collapsed by itself. This was the most ridiculous thing he had ever seen in the thousands of times he had exerted this formation. An ancient immortal king? Hearing this, Jiangchun was immediately amused. He had only used the method that Gu Hua taught him to break the formation. He was trying to break Han Yan's formation. He did not expect that the opponent's formation had been strengthened by Gu Hua. Then in front of Gu Hua's dispelling formation, it really wasn't even worth a fart. While Han Yan was suffering from the backlash and was in a daze, Bai Xiaoyun had already rushed in front of him and placed her white sword on his neck. She could take his life with just a little bit of force. You're not a second-tier immortal king. Han Yin looked at Bai Xiaoyun. He did not believe that Jiangchun could do this with his strength, so he naturally suspected Bai Xiaoyun. What nonsense are you talking about? Bai Xiaoyan was confused. After breaking his formation, Jiang Chen immediately went to help Wang Min and the others. With Jiang Chen's help, the hundreds of people from the humble school were quickly taken care of. Seeing that their sect master had been subdued, they no longer had any thoughts of resisting. Han Yin, there was no grudge between our sects, but you wanted to take advantage of the situation. If Jiang Chun was not here today, do you want to destroy our love Despair Valley? Wang Min walked up to Han Yin angrily and questioned him loudly. Sect Master Wang Min, now that things have come to this, there's no need to say anything else. I only have one life. If you want to kill me, then kill me. But please let go of the protectors and disciples of my humble school. This is my own idea. It has nothing to do with them. Han Yin gritted his teeth. He still couldn't figure it out. With Jiang Chen's cultivation level, why was he able to perform the immortal arts in the icy soul pearl? Why did his ice prison of eternal sin collapse? Did you kill him? Bai Xiaoyan looked up at Jiang Chen. You guys go back first, I'll deal with him alone. Thinking that Han Yin had been taught by Gu Hua, Jiang Chen had some concerns. If the person before him was related to Gu Hua, he might offend Gu Hua if he killed him just like that. Jiang Chen was still prepared to obtain the formation from him. Moreover, offending one of the three great celestial kings because of Han Yin was indeed not a wise move. Yes, Wang Min didn't hesitate and immediately led the elders back to the town. After they left, Jiang Chen looked at Han Yin and asked calmly, Tell me, what's your relationship with one ancient celestial king? You're afraid of one ancient celestial king, so you don't dare to kill me, right? Han Yin suddenly felt hopeful when he heard Jiang Chen's words. He suddenly looked up at Jiang Chen and asked coldly, Oh? Jiang Chen suddenly smiled. Kid, I'm warning you, I'm on good terms with one ancient celestial king. He's one of the three great celestial kings. If you dare to hurt me, he'll hunt you down no matter where you run to. Hand over the icy soul pearl if you know what's good for you. Don't force me to summon one ancient celestial king. Han Yin said with a cold smile. The three great celestial kings were enough to intimidate anyone in the immortal world. Is that so? Then tell him to come out, and I'll meet him. Jiang Chen's interest was piqued. Jiang Chen didn't think that Gu Hu would fall out with him for the sake of this person when he begged him to be his disciple. And by then, Jiang Chen was determined to kill him too. There's a crystal in my sect that's specially used to contact one ancient celestial king. If you have the guts, let me go back and see if I can summon one ancient celestial king here. Han Yin struggled for a moment. After showing his biggest trump card, he was sure that Bai Xiaoyan wouldn't dare to kill him. Eldest senior brother, are you going? Jiang Chen looked up at Bai Xiaoyan. Of course, why wouldn't I? Bai Xiaoyan instantly understood Jiang Chen's meaning, and the smile on her face grew wider. The strongest sect in the snow region must have a lot of good stuff. Han Yin snorted coldly. Let me tell you, once one ancient celestial king appears, even if you hand over the icy soul pearl, you'll have to kneel on the ground and apologize to me. Only then will I let you go. Looking at the guardians and disciples who had suffered heavy casualties, Han Yin swung his sleeves and rushed towards the sect. Behind him, Jiang Chun and Bai Xiaoyan were following him closely. At the border of the northern region, Jiang Chun saw the humble class. The temperature here was even lower than Love Despair Valley. Within 100 miles, there was almost no activity. The snowstorm didn't stop at all. Not only did the snow not bury the humble class, but it was also converted into natural energy for the sect through a special formation. Do you see that formation? This formation was also taught by one ancient celestial king. Stepping on the snow and looking at the sect in the distance, Han Yin pointed at the huge formation above the sect and said proudly, Impressive. Jiang Chun said casually. Do I need you to say that? Han Yin sneered. Boy, hurry up and hand over the icy soul pearl. You'll have to see one ancient celestial king first. Jiang Chun didn't want to talk to him at all. The only thing in his mind was to go to the humble class and see if there was anything worth taking away. Seeing that Jiang Chen wouldn't give up until he saw the coffin, Han Yin directly rushed into the sect. The ice gate opened. Sect Master, after Han Yin came in, Dozens of disciples bowed together. Let the two people behind him come in as well. They are the honored guests of our humble class. Han Yin rushed into the main hall. Under his signal, Jiang Chun and Bai Xiaoyan easily came in. Looking around at the situation of the humble class, Bai Xiaoyan could not help but click her tongue when she saw the hundreds of disciples. This humble class is indeed much stronger than the Love Valley. It also looks more like the orthodox inheritance of the Ice King. Senior brother, whose side are you on? Jiang Chun looked sideways at her. Ahem, I'm just telling the truth. Bai Xiaoyan touched her nose. Chapter 1887. In the main hall, when Jiang Chun and Bai Hua entered, Han Yin was standing inside with one hand behind his back. In his right hand, there was a dark-colored crystal. This item can bring an ancient celestial king here. If you insist on not handing over the icy soul pearl, I can only crush it. When the ancient celestial king is here, I won't be able to decide whether he lives or dies. Han Yin was no longer as timid as before. Now that he had an ancient celestial king to back him up, he naturally didn't take Jiang Chun and Bai Hua seriously. Moreover, in his own sect, he had many ways to deal with them. However, dealing with them didn't mean that he could get the icy soul pearl. Using an ancient celestial king was the best choice. Hurry up, don't dawdle. Jiang Chun sat on the chair with his legs crossed. Wait for your death. Seeing that Jiang Chun was being stubborn, Han Yin took a deep breath and crushed the crystal. An invisible wave spread out instantly. Then, the space at the entrance of the main hall was distorted. A middle-aged man in gray walked in. Seeing this person, Han Yin immediately knelt on one knee. Bai Xiaoyan wasn't afraid. After all, with Bai Xuanling's support, even an ancient celestial king would have to think twice if he wanted to touch her and Jiang Chun. Why did you call me? Gu Hua's eyes were hazy. It was obvious that he had been woken up from a beautiful dream. Ancient celestial king, these two broke my eternal sin-ice prison and didn't take you seriously at all. I have no choice but to crush the crystal and ask the ancient celestial king to teach them a lesson. Han Yin knelt on one knee and cupped his hands at Gu Hua. However, he couldn't control the smile on his face. It was as if he could see Jiang Chun was about to be scared to the point of wetting his pants. Oh! Gu Hua opened his eyes and glanced around. After seeing Bai Xiaoyan, he didn't show any emotion. A mere ancient celestial king was not worth mentioning in front of him. However, when he saw Jiang Chun sitting beside Bai Xiaoyan, his eyes suddenly lit up. My good disciple, why are you here? Gu Hua forced a smile and walked to Jiang Chun's side to sit down. She said with a smile, I was about to go find you, but I sensed that you were in the western region, so I decided to wait a little longer. I almost lost my life in the western regions. Why didn't you do anything? Jiang Chun sneered. This, Gu Hua explained awkwardly. I know that with your strength, you should be able to resolve it easily. Moreover, isn't Bai Xianling your master? He didn't help you either. If you're too lazy to go, then you're too lazy to go. There's no need to explain. Looking at Gu Hua, who was filled with laziness, Jiang Chun really didn't have much of a temper. The conversation between Gu Hua and Jiang Chun, Han Yin felt as if he had fallen into a bottomless ice cellar. In the 2 times he came into contact with Gu Hua, he could clearly sense that the latter was one of the 3 great immortal kings that stood high above. She was extremely proud and disdainful of everything. But now, why did he seem so familiar with Jiang Chun? That one ancient immortal king, Han Yin couldn't help but say with a pale face. All right, little Yin, let me introduce you. Gu Hua slapped her head and patted Jiang Chun's arm. This is Jiang Chun, my direct disciple. He's also the current young master of the 10,000 Mounts Immortal Sect. From now on, his words are my words. Do you understand? Han Yan's legs were trembling uncontrollably. Of course, compared to him, Bai Xiaoyan was also very shocked. But after thinking about it, she understood. Little junior brother was such a demon-like person. He even snatched his master back and made him his direct disciple. Even the sect was handed over to him. So, it wasn't strange for him to know another one ancient immortal king. Jiang Chun. He's the sect master of the humble sect. This sect's cultivation in the snow region is very strong. They'll definitely be of help to you in the future. Guhua pointed at Han Yin and said to Jiang Chen, I'm afraid not. Jiang Chen smiled and said, You're underestimating this sect too much. Guhua misunderstood Jiang Chen's meaning and said, Don't think that he's the only immortal king. Some of the sect's formations have been taught by me. Even facing 2 or 3 immortal kings won't be a problem. Sect Master Han Yin, repeat what you just said to me to one ancient immortal king. Jiang Chen looked at Han Yin. Han Yin was so scared that he trembled. He didn't expect Jiang Chen to be the disciple of an ancient immortal king, but Jiang Chen had already said it. The only thing he could do now was to beg for Jiang Chen's forgiveness. Only then could he save his life and the humble sect. What do you mean? Guhua sensed that something was wrong. Han Yin crawled to Jiang Chen on all fours and begged, Brother Jiang Chen, I was blind. I didn't expect you to be the disciple of an ancient immortal king. If I knew, I definitely wouldn't have offended you. Little Chen, what happened between you two? Guhua asked. Sect Master Han Yin brought the protectors and disciples of the sect to the Love Despair Valley. After I showed up to stop him, he tried to kill me and take away the Ice Soul Pearl of the Love Despair Valley. I'm only able to see you here because Sect Master Han Yin thinks I won't give up until I see the coffin. He's trying to use you to threaten me. Jiang Chen looked at Han Yin, who was kneeling in front of him, and asked, Sect Master Han Yin, do you think I'm right? Han Yin, are you serious? Guhua took a deep breath. The aura of one of the 3 immortal kings spread from his body once again. Even his voice deepened. An ancient immortal king, Brother Jiang Chen, I know I was wrong. Han Yin was trembling. He remained kneeling on the ground without daring to move. How are you going to deal with him? Guhua took a deep breath and asked Jiang Chen. I'll listen to you, Jiang Chen said casually. He still had to give Han Yin some face. It'll be a pity if I kill him. I've seen someone who's quite skilled in formations, but he has offended you. Let me think about it. Guhua placed his hands behind him. A moment later, a talisman floated out of his palm. Sect Master Jiang Chen, if you're willing to let me go, I'll be loyal to you in the future. Han Yin quickly crawled up to Jiang Chen and said when he sensed the murderous intent behind him. Get up. Jiang Chen had no choice but to raise his hand. It was indeed inappropriate to kill someone in front of Guhua. Han Yin, Jiang Chen is letting you go this time. If I know you dare to harm him again, I won't let you go even if the other 2 immortal emperors plead for you. Guhua reminded Han Yin after putting the talisman away. Never again. Han Yin shook his head desperately. He did not dare to offend Jiang Chen anymore under the circumstances. The man was the disciple of an ancient immortal king. He even had someone called by Xianling behind him. Chapter 1888. Although he did not know who Bai Xianling was, he must be a powerful immortal king since he was called out by an ancient immortal king. If he still had the nerve to attack Jiang Chen in such a high status, he would be an idiot. Get up. Jiang Chen raised his head and said, Little Chen, I still have something to deal with. If you need my help, just let me know at any time, Guhua said to Jiang Chen tentatively after seeing Han Yin submit to her. Jiang Chen nodded. After getting Jiang Chen's permission, Guhua tore open the space again and entered it. When the space crack closed, his aura completely disappeared from the main hall. Han Yin heaved a sigh of relief and sat on the ground. Sect Master Han Yin, do you still want the icy soul pearl? Jiang Chen got up and walked around the main hall. Leader Jiang Chen, oh no, young Lord Jiang Chen, I don't dare ask for the icy soul pearl anymore. I only want to stay by your side in the future and be at your beck and call. I don't have any other thoughts. Han Yin stood up straight and said respectfully, I'll trust you this time, because you're an ancient immortal king. If there's a next time, Jiang Chen narrowed his eyes. If I dare to betray you again, the ancient immortal king will not let me go. Han Yin rushed to say. He was eager to show his loyalty to Jiang Chen. In the future, take care of Love Valley in the snow region. You should have a lot of spies who know about what happened in Love Valley recently. If there's a danger like this again, you have to use the power of the whole clan to help and report to me immediately. Jiang Chen put his hands behind his back. Although Han Yin was not happy to accept it, there were still many benefits. This person was the sect master of the snow region. It was more reliable than the experts from the immortal mountains overseas. Moreover, with Han Yan's strength, even if he encountered opponents like the poison sect, he could definitely hold on until Jiangchen arrived. Understood, young master. Han Yan nodded heavily and agreed. As for the immortal spells and the icy soul pearl, if you perform well in the future, I will naturally teach you. Jiangchen knew how to show mercy and mercy. Plop. Thank you, young lord. I definitely won't betray you again. Han Yan's eyes lit up as he knelt on the ground and kowtowed heavily to Jiangchen. Get up. Jiangchen raised his hand. Young master, why don't you stay in our sect for a while? I saw that the Love Valley sect was destroyed, and it will take some time to rebuild. If young master goes to their place, I'm afraid they won't even have a place to stay. I'll go and prepare 2 guest rooms immediately. Han Yin stood up joyfully. If you want to stay, that's fine. Jiangchen and Bai Xiaoyan looked at each other. However, there are conditions for joining our 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect. What conditions? Han Yin asked. Let me see the strength of your humble class. Now that the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect has been re-established in the immortal world, all the families and sects that join must have a certain level of strength in the immortal world. Zhang Chan made his expression look more serious. But young master, the most elite experts in the sect have all suffered heavy casualties in the town. I'd better go and bring them back to recuperate. Speaking of this, Han Yan's expression was obviously a little depressed. After losing those people, the strength of the sect could be said to be greatly reduced. You two go. Jiangchen looked at the 2 disciples standing at the door and said casually, Sect Master. The disciples turned their heads. Although they all heard the words in the main hall, they still didn't know who to listen to for a while. What are you waiting for? Young master told you to go. Go quickly. If you delay, be careful that I will take your life. Seeing that the disciples of the sect didn't listen to Jiangchen, Han Yin suddenly became angry. He pointed at the 2 disciples and reprimanded them loudly. The disciples didn't dare to hesitate and immediately jumped and disappeared in the blizzard. As soon as they left, Han Yin immediately said, Young master, take a look at the strength of the sect now. He was ready to gather all the disciples in the sect and let Jiangchen see their humble sect. Although the sect couldn't be compared to the big sects in the immortal world, it still had a certain amount of weight. No, you misunderstood. I'm not talking about this strength. Jiangchen shook his head repeatedly. He wasn't interested in the strength of the humble sect. As long as they could protect Love Despair Valley, it was enough. Ah? What kind of strength is that? Han Yin didn't understand. Of course it is. Jiangchen sighed. He didn't expect this person to be so stupid. Of course it is immortal arts, heaven and earth treasures, heaven and earth elixirs. Understood? Hearing Jiangchen's words, Han Yin understood. Young master, please come with me. There are still many treasures in our sect, but I don't know if young master will like them. Han Yin took the lead and walked outside. At the side of the main hall, Jiangchen saw a 2-story wooden building. The huge array that protected the entire sect floated out from this place. Young master, please come with me. Standing at the door, Han Yin reached out and pressed on the door. After the fluctuations dispersed and the seal was lifted, he pushed the door open and turned to Jiangchen. He walked in. What entered his eyes was a huge array. The array whistled. He could feel the powerful fluctuations that were emitted from time to time, but these fluctuations were all blocked by the barrier outside. In the middle of the array, there was a yellow talisman that was slowly circulating. Seeing Jiangchen staring at it, Han Yin hurriedly explained, 5,000 years ago, I met an ancient immortal king by chance. He saw that I had some talent in array formations, so he helped me and built this array with me. It can convert the continuous snowstorm into heaven and earth spiritual energy for our sect's disciples to cultivate. It is also because of this that I can rise from the half-step immortal king to the true immortal king in such a short time. That's right. Jiangchen looked at it and nodded. The formation was similar to the wood elemental immortal technique he obtained from the Emperor Qianji. Young master, please come up. All of our humble school's things are up there. Han Yin pointed at the stairs next to him. Jiang Chen followed him to the second floor. What entered his eyes was a forest of wooden shelves. Each wooden shelf was densely packed with items. As expected of the #1 sect in the snow domain, Bai Xiaoyan almost drooled when she saw this. White Immortal King, you're too kind. We're just an ordinary sect. I think these treasures are nothing compared to your sect. Han Yin smiled awkwardly. Bai Xiaoyan was even more embarrassed than him. The Heavenly Secrets Pavilion. It was a long story. If Junior Brother had not become the sect master, the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion would probably be no more than an ordinary small family. Chapter 1889. These things have to be brought back to the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect. If you need them in the future, you can apply to the sect, and I will return them to you. Jiang Chen coughed twice and pretended to be serious. No problem. Han Yin agreed without hesitation. It was already good enough that he was still alive and could protect his school. As for these things, he didn't care about them at all. Anyway, since he had Jiang Chen's support, he would get a lot of benefits in the future. These things couldn't compare to him at all. Senior Brother, take them away. Jiang Chen waved his hand. Bai Xiaoyan did not hesitate and put all the things on the second floor into the storage ring. By the way, young Master Jiang Chen, when can I go to the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect? Now that we have joined the humble class, we need to know where the sect is. Han Yin rubbed his hands and asked, You can go anytime. After seeing Bai Xiaoyan put all the things into the storage ring, Jiang Chen was ready to leave. Sect Master Han Yin, come with me to the Love Valley. Huh? Han Yin said, Humble class is the same as Love Valley. Now that they are both under our 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect, we have to go and see them. And in the future, don't you want to protect Love Valley? Jiang Chen looked at him. Listen to young master. Han Yin nodded. After leaving the humble class, Jiang Chen and the other two returned to the small town. The protectors and disciples of the humble class had been taken away, and the injured Love Valley elders and disciples were healing in the small town. After asking, Jiang Chen rushed to the sacred mountain. At this time, Wang Min was cleaning the sect with some disciples who were not seriously injured. When Han Yin saw this, he quickly said, Sect Master Wang Min, let us humble class disciples do this kind of small thing. I will send a message back later and let them come and help. Han Yin? Seeing the person standing behind Jiang Chen, Wang Min immediately became alert. Jiang Chen quickly walked to Wang Min's side and explained, Don't worry. Now that he has joined the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect and is in the snow region, I can rest assured knowing that he can protect you. Aren't you afraid that he will have other thoughts about the icy soul pearl? Wang Min bit her lips. I won't, Jiang Chen said with a smile. With Gu Hui here, Han Yin would not have any disloyalty. Sect Master Wang Min, the previous matter was really not right. I lost my head for a moment and wanted to attack you. Now that we are all people of the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect, I hope that we can bury the hatchet in the future. Han Yin swallowed his saliva and continued. He knew that he had to get Wang Min's forgiveness. Otherwise, Jiang Chen would not let him go. Since Jiang Chen said so, then let's just pretend that nothing happened. Wang Min was a little helpless, but since Jiang Chen had already done so much, she couldn't refuse. She could only nod and agree. No problem. Han Yin heaved a sigh of relief. I have to make a trip back. I need to inform the sect about the situation in the western region. Jiang Chen's expression was a little gloomy. If not for the fact that he needed to report the situation of the Black Poison sect in the western region, Jiang Chen really wanted to stay here for a while and help the Love Despair Valley to return to normal before leaving. Let's go back. Wang Min's expression changed slightly. Han Yin, remember what I told you? Jiang Chen took a deep breath and said to him, Young master, I will remember, Han Yin said in a low voice. Jiang Chen nodded, looked back, and jumped down the sacred mountain with Bai Xiaoyan. Long Date had already transformed into his original form and was waiting here. After the two landed on his back, they quickly approached the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect. Near evening, the three of them returned to the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect. Bai Xiaoyan didn't stop and went to the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion. Now that Jiang Chun had established the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect, although he was still the pavilion master of the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion, he almost didn't care about the matters of the pavilion. At this time, he needed to replace him as the eldest senior brother. Jiang Chun, you're back. Jiang Chun and Long Dade had just entered when Jiang Yuan came out from inside to welcome them. Is it just you? Looking at the deserted sect, Jiang Chun frowned slightly. Naturally, he didn't feel too good in his heart. The current 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect had absorbed many forces in the north and east region, but in the end, they were all sects that had submitted. The real 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect. Only he, Huafu, Jiang Yuan, and Long Dade were left. Huafu went to the Kunlun Celestial Mountain. I heard that the 9th mountain found some information, and she should be back in 2 or 3 days. Now, I'm the only one left in the sect. Jiang Yuan nodded in response. Then, during the time that I was away, did anything happen in the sect? Jiang Chen asked as he led them inside. There were no problems, but many small sects and families would often come and ask to join the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect to seek protection, but they are too weak. Not only is it useless to recruit them, but it will also cause us to lose resources. Jiang Yuan said in detail. Yes, there is indeed no need to recruit these forces. But our 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect is indeed a little desolate. Looking at such a magnificent sect, Jiang Chen's thoughts were pulled back to the past. At that time, his father was still the 10,000 Mounts Immortal Lord of the Immortal sect, and the entire 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect was also a famous sect in the immortal world. There was an endless stream of people who came to visit, and the disciples of the immortal sect could almost fill the entire sect. But now, there were only the 3 of them in the huge immortal sect. Dade, you will have to work hard tonight. Spread the news to the entire North region that our 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect is recruiting disciples. Regardless of gender, regardless of cultivation, as long as they are talented, they can enter. Also, if they ascended from the lower realm, they can be selected based on merit. Jiang Chen stood on the spot and pondered for a while, then turned to Long Dade and said, I will go now. Seeing Jiang Chen's serious expression, Long Dade also put away his usual playful look. Brother Jiang Yuan, go and invite Elder Su Qian and Elder Su Yundian of the 1,000 Mounts sect. Let them work hard and be the examiners. Jiang Chun said to Jiang Yuan, with the current reputation of our 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect, once the news spreads, there will be thousands of cultivators gathered here. With just a few of us, I'm afraid we won't be able to filter them out in a few months. Jiang Yuan looked troubled. And the senior and junior brothers of the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion. Jiang Chen took a deep breath and said, the most important thing now was to strengthen the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect. It would never be possible to let the immortal sect stand in the immortal world with just external support. Okay. The 2 of them agreed at the same time and disappeared into the night in the blink of an eye. Jiang Chun sat alone in the empty immortal sect. After nearly 2 hours, he got up and rushed to the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion. Chapter 1890. Junior brother Jiang is back. As soon as Jiang Chun entered the Heavenly Secret Pavilion, there was a commotion inside. Bai Xiaoyan pushed the door open and asked Jiang Chen, why are you here? Jiang Chen shrugged and said, I sent Jiang Yuan and Long Dade out. Huafu returned to Kunlun Immortal Mountain, leaving me there alone. Sigh. To be honest, the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect should recruit some disciples. Bai Xiaoyan sighed. I came back for this matter. Seeing Bai Xiaolan, Bai Fengyu, and more than 10 senior brothers and sisters come out. Jiang Chen said in a deep voice, from tomorrow onwards, I hope that senior brothers and sisters can help us to be examiners for the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect and screen the cultivators who come. You want to recruit disciples? Bai Xiaoyan asked in surprise. The 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect can't only rely on external forces. We need our own strength to have a chance to re-establish ourselves in the immortal world. If we don't even have a single disciple, then there's no difference whether we re-establish it or not. Jiang Chen nodded and said in a deep voice, but I'm afraid it's not enough with just us. Bai Xiaoyan pondered for a moment and said, Junior Sister Xiaolan, go to the immortal mountain overseas and ask them to send a few immortal kings to the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect. Okay. Bai Xiaolan didn't refuse. Let's talk inside. Bai Xiaoyan pulled Jiang Chen's arm and went into the hall. Looking at the woman standing beside him, Jiang Chen rubbed his hands and asked, Fenyu, how's your cultivation? Not bad. There's already a faint sign of a breakthrough. Bai Fenyu nodded and said, Okay. Jiang Chen replied with a smile. Junior brother, is there anything in the immortal sect? Bai Xiaoyan took off the storage ring on her finger and placed it in front of Jiang Chen and said, Inside are the things we just brought back from the humble sect. If you want to recruit disciples, you have to have something good to attract them. Yes. Jiang Chen put all of the humble school's immortal methods and elixirs into his storage ring. Other than these, there were still many immortal spells and immortal techniques left from the immortal emperor's tomb. Not to mention, Long Dade still had many treasures from the heaven-devouring Golden Dragon tribe. I think there's no time to lose. Let's set off immediately. Go and pack up. Tomorrow, prepare to welcome the first batch of disciples of the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect. Bai Xiaoyan stood up and said after looking at the night sky outside. When Jiang Chen and the people from the Divination Pavilion arrived at the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect, Long Dade found a small family not far from the Immortal sect. After giving them a few thousand immortal jades, he told them to spread the news to every corner of the northern region. In a split second, tens of thousands of cultivators approached the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect. Even though this group of people didn't participate in the establishment of the Celestial sect. However, they had heard a lot of rumors about Jiangchun, Northern Region, Kunlun Celestial Mountain, Tianji Pavilion, Eastern Region, Thousand Harmonies sect. Even the two patriarchs of the Southern Region's 6 great spirit beast clans, the Blazing Phoenix clan and the Ancient Void Dragon clan, had personally arrived. Not to mention famous forces like the Heaven and Earth Pharmacy and the Ganges Bank. Everyone knew about the huge power behind Jiangchun. They also knew that once they entered the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect, it meant that they were indirectly related to this power. It could even be said that in the current immortal world, there were probably not many forces stronger than the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect except for the 3 Immortal King sections. The next day, tens of thousands of cultivators gathered at the entrance of the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect. Looking at the closed door, they were all excited. As long as they were recognized, they would be a member of the top sects in the immortal world in the future. Inside the sect, the senior and junior brothers of the Divination Pavilion, the immortal kings of the overseas immortal mountains, Su Qian and Su Yundian, were all present. Jiang Chen divided the immortal power according to the different attributes and distributed it to everyone. As for Jiang Chen, he was sitting on the stone steps in front of the main hall, overlooking it. When the sun had just risen above the door, he pushed the door open. Immediately, all the cultivators outside gathered in. All attributes? What? The 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect accepts disciples of any attribute? Could it be that Jiang Chen has all the immortal methods and immortal techniques? I'm afraid that no one in the immortal world can do it. Looking at the huge banner above everyone's head with the immortal power attribute, all the cultivators who entered the door were stunned. In their knowledge, it was not easy to have disciples with 2 different attributes. But they did a rough count. In the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect, there were a total of 9 types. And this was only on the surface. Those rarer attributes might also be there. Everyone, please calm down and listen to me for a moment. Looking at the bustling crowd, Jiang Chen stood up and said lightly. His voice, wrapped in immortal power, reached everyone's ears. All those who want to join the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect, according to the attributes of the immortal power in your body, go to the examiners to be tested. If you pass, you can enter the immortal sect and become the first batch of disciples. If you don't pass, then go back and come back to participate in the test 3 years later. Remember, if anyone dares to cause trouble here, I don't care who's behind him. Kill him without mercy. Jiang Chen glanced at them with his hands behind his back. With just these 2 sentences, the chaotic crowd instantly quietened down. No one dared to doubt Jiang Chen's words. Seeing that order had been restored in the sect, Jiang Chen turned and returned to the main hall. Looking at the empty main hall, he couldn't help but sigh. The establishment of the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect was a hot topic in the entire immortal world. His father should know about it too. Even if he didn't dare to show his face due to the pressure of the three immortal kings, he could always sneak back. Soon, several disciples passed the test and stood in the open space of the sect. As for those who didn't pass, they left dejectedly. They were all ready to try again in 3 years. Entering the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect had become their biggest dream. More and more people gathered outside the sect. Most of them came to participate in the test, but there were also a small number of people from various families and sects in the northern region. They came quietly to see what the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect was up to. It was just that there were too many people gathered, and they only dared to watch from 100 meters away from the gate. Except for the densely packed cultivators at the gate, they couldn't see anything. Even some people from other sects, when they heard that the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect had full attribute immortal skills, wanted to try to become a disciple and then give up their previous sect. Chapter 1891. Due to the strict selection process, only about 100 people met the requirements after a whole day had passed, and nearly 2,000 cultivators had been screened. While many people lamented the strict requirements of the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect, those who succeeded were even more delighted. They understood that the more strictest sect like the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect was in selecting disciples, the more powerful and trump cards they had. This group of people even had a faint feeling that they would at least become immortal venerables in the future. Taking advantage of the assessment, Jiang Chun and Bai Xiaoyan tidied up the treasure pavilion in the immortal sect. As evening approached, only about 300 people remained from the tens of thousands of people who had gathered at the entrance. These 300 people were the current disciples of the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect. As soon as the assessment ended, Su Qian and Su Yundian left with the excuse that they had something to deal with in the sect. The junior brothers and sisters of the Divine Secret Pavilion also returned to the pavilion to continue their cultivation. Apart from this group of newcomers, only Jiang Chun, Jiang Yuan, and the others were left. Jiang Chun stood in front of the main hall and looked at the disciples in front of him. From today onwards, you are all disciples of the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect. I am your young lord. This immortal monarch expert of the immortal ape race is the great elder. This immortal monarch expert of the blazing phoenix race is the second elder. As for him, he is your protector. Do you all know each other? Jiang Chen pointed at Jiang Yuan and the other two with a spear in one hand and introduced them. Understood, young lord. Everyone shouted in unison. However, in the crowd, a strange voice sounded. The dignified 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect has a young lord, an elder, and even a protector. Why is there no sect master? Someone in the crowd suddenly said. However, the voice was very low, and only the people around him could hear it clearly. Oh, speak up if you have a question. Jiang Chen heard it clearly and said with a smile. The disciple was embarrassed. He only wanted to complain, but who would have thought that Jiang Chen would hear it? Reporting to young lord, I just said that there is a young lord, an elder, and a protector in the immortal sect. Why is there no sect master? After hesitating for a while, the disciple opened his mouth and said. However, as soon as he finished speaking, he closed his eyes. He was going to wait for Jiang Chen to drive him out of the school. When the other disciples heard this, they all broke out in cold sweat for him. The news of the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect had already spread throughout the immortal world. Back then, Wancheng Immortal Monarch was suppressed by 3 immortal kings. Young Lord Wanhua escaped by a fluke, and after 10 reincarnations, he reappeared in the immortal world. In their view, 10,000 mounts was Jiang Chen's bottom line. Now, this scar was being brought up in front of everyone. All the disciples were prepared to welcome Jiang Chen's wrath. Ha! Come out and let me see who it is. Who would have thought that not only was Jiang Chen not angry, but he even laughed out loud. Everyone made way for him. The disciple walked out from the crowd and stood in front of the stone steps. He cupped his hands towards Jiang Chen. Junior Lin Xiao greets young master. The current 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect does not have a sect master, but there will definitely be one in the future. It could be the former 10,000 Mounts Immortal monarch, or it could be me. However, this is not something you need to worry about. After entering the Immortal sect, I will provide you with the best cultivation resources in the immortal world, but at the same time, I will set a rule for you. Those who do not improve in 3 years, those who do not improve in 100 years, and those who do not reach the immortal realm in 1,000 years will all leave. Zhang Chun said loudly with his hands behind his back. Yes, young master. Everyone immediately nodded and agreed loudly. Lin Xiao, right? Zhang Chun looked at him and said, if I remember correctly, you should be the first disciple to enter the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect. Come with me. I have something to ask you. Lin Xiao's hands trembled, but he still braced himself and walked up the stone steps. It's over. The eldest senior brother we just met is going to suffer. Maybe he is the only person in the immortal world who was chased out of the sect after becoming the eldest senior brother for less than a day. Everyone could not help but sigh. Quiet down. After seeing Lin Xiao follow Zhang Chun into the main hall, Zhang Yuan shouted loudly, all disciples, follow Guardian Long to the place where you can rest. Since you have just joined the sect today, I will give you 1 day to learn. Gather here tomorrow morning. According to the attribute of your immortal power, I will provide you with immortal arts for cultivation. Under Long Dade's lead, nearly 300 disciples left one after another. In the main hall, Lin Xiao stood straight in the middle. As for Zhang Chun, he poured himself a cup of tea and took 2 sips. Do you know why I called you here? After drinking the tea, Zhang Chun turned to look at him. I'm sorry, young master. I shouldn't have asked that question. Lin Xiao lowered his head with a heavy expression. The joy of joining the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect was washed away by his mistake. No. If you have doubts in your heart, you naturally have to ask. I will not blame you for this. Zhang Chun shook his head and explained. Then I don't know. Lin Xiao shook his head. He was a little confused, but more than that, he felt relieved. At the very least, it meant that he, the eldest senior brother, would not be chased out of the sect. It's because of your talent. You have immortal force of wood and ice attributes in your body, right? These 2 immortal forces are not interconnected. I didn't expect them to appear in your body at the same time. Zhang Chun looked at him and said, my talent is not worth mentioning in front of you, young master. Lin Xiao smiled embarrassedly. He had heard about what Zhang Chun had done in the past. He also knew that the immortal force of 7 or 8 attributes in his body was nothing compared to Zhang Chun's. Cut the crap. Since you are the eldest senior brother and one of the more outstanding talents among the new disciples, I have decided to promote you. Zhang Chun rubbed his chin and pondered for a while before taking out an ancient scroll. Young master, this is, Lin Xiao asked curiously when he saw the scroll. Would attribute immortal technique, beginning of all beginnings. Zhang Chun put it on the table and said, I got this scroll from the immortal emperor's tomb. It can be said to be the strongest would attribute immortal technique that I have come into contact with. Young master, I have just joined the sect. I really can't accept such a big gift. After hearing Zhang Chun's introduction, Lin Xiao directly knelt on the ground and said in a deep voice, it's my decision whether I can accept it or not yours. Zhang Chun frowned slightly and helped him to his feet. He said, I gave you this immortal method because I trust you. However, if I find out that you have any ulterior motives, don't blame me for being merciless. Young master, don't worry. I will only have the 10,000 creations immortal sect in my heart in the future. Lin Xiao kowtowed heavily. Get up. With your current cultivation of the 3rd level of the golden immortal realm, the beginning of all beginnings is enough. After you have improved, I will give you another ice attribute immortal technique. Chapter 1892. Thank you, young master. Lin Xiao's eyes turned red. He didn't expect to receive such a big gift as soon as he entered the sect. Zhang Chun's position in his heart instantly rose. He decided that in the future, he would give his life to the 10,000 creations immortal sect. If anyone dared to hurt the sect and the young master, they would have to step over his dead body first. Jiang Qin patted him on the shoulder and said in a deep voice, "You don't have to thank me. In the future, when the elders and I, and even Protector Long, are not in the sect, I will count on you to maintain the order of the sect." "Okay." Lin Xiao nodded heavily. "Go back and rest. I have something to tell you tomorrow morning." Jiang Chun waved his hand at him. When Lin Xiao left with the scroll, Zhang Yuan and Hua Fu also walked in side by side. "Young master, I have arranged for all the disciples to rest." Zhang Yuan sat beside Jiang Chun and said while panting, "Well, thank you for your hard work today." Jiang Chun replied, "I went to Kunlun Mountain during this period and got some new news." Hua Fu glanced at Jiang Chun with a complicated look and said, "Oh, what news?" Jiang Chun avoided her gaze. Until now, he didn't know how to face her. Several leaders of Kunlun Mountain have been investigating the sect master of the Black Sect. They said that in 3 months, the sect master of the Black Sect is very likely to hold a ceremony somewhere in the Eastern Domain. As for the purpose, they don't know, but the news should be accurate. With Zhang Yuan present, Hua Fu didn't dare to be too presumptuous and could only speak seriously. "Ceremony? How did Kunlun Mountain get this news?" Jiang Chun frowned slightly. Based on his understanding of the Black Sect, this group of people should be very secretive. It was understandable if Qinna's sect got this news, but it was a little unusual for Kunlun Mountain to get it. It is said that the news was brought back by the 10th leader of Kunlun Mountain. Hua Fu closed the door of the hall and said, "What did you say?" Jiang Chun stood up with a look of surprise. Even he did not know the identity of the 10th mountain master of the Kunlun Celestial Mountain. In Jiang Chun's mind, this person was either in seclusion somewhere in the immortal world or had already fallen. It was just that he didn't expect to hear news about this person. Moreover, this person had also provided useful information for him. Is the 10th mountain lord still in the Celestial Mountain? Jiang Chun pondered for a moment, then stood up and prepared to leave. He has already left. Hua Fu shook her head and said, "He left?" Jiang Chun returned to his chair and said, "Since it's news from the mountain chieftain, there shouldn't be any problems. Let's see what the Black Sect is up to in 3 months." "Yes." Hua Fu nodded. "There's one more thing. That girl called Xiao Xiao, after knowing that you've already established the 10,000 Mounts Immortal Sect, insisted on leaving the Kunlun Immortal Mountain and joining the 10,000 Mounts Immortal Sect. Ignore her." At the mention of this person, Jiang Chun became angry. He was already badly battered from investigating Hikari's whereabouts. If there was such a chattering person beside him, it wouldn't take long for him to have mental problems. "I also stopped her." Hua Fu knew what Jiang Chun was thinking and said, "Then let's leave it at that for now. 3 months is enough for us to prepare. Before that, let's settle the sect situation." Jiang Chun rubbed his hands and said, "Then, young master, I'll go back and rest first." Zhang Yuan yawned. He knew that it was time to not disturb Jiang Chun and Hua Fu. Go on, go on." Before Jiang Chun could say anything, Hua Fu waved her hand at him. "Hey!" Just as Jiang Chun spoke, Zhang Yuan had already disappeared from the main hall. Hua Fu got up and stretched, showing off her graceful waist incisively and vividly. She walked in front of Jiang Chun and gently sat on his lap. Cough, cough. Smelling the fragrance on her body, Jiang Chun was confused and infatuated. Hua Fu put her arm around Jiang Chun's neck, and her white legs were almost in front of Jiang Chun's face. "Tell me, what did you do after leaving the immortal sect in such a hurry?" "Damn!" Jiang Chun slapped his head. Hua Fu, who was sitting on him, was shocked and quickly got up. "When I came back, I was so busy with the recruitment of disciples that I forgot to tell you about the situation in the Western region." Jiang Chun frowned and said in a deep voice, "Kunlun Immortal Mountain was fine, and they had already found out that the Black Sect master was going to hold some kind of ceremony. They must be watching closely, but Qinna's sect still didn't know anything. Jiang Chun was supposed to tell Great Elder Su Qian about the situation in the Western region today, but who would have thought that he was so busy that he completely forgot about it?" "What's wrong?" What happened in the western region? After being frightened by Jiang Chun, Huafu lost all interest. She sat beside Jiang Chun and asked, "In the western region, there are several sect masters similar to the Black Sect. One of them is called the Black Poison Sect, and there is also the poison that Hui Yuanba and the Green Light Heavenly Snake used to attack your father." Jiang Chun took a deep breath and said slowly, "The Black Plague?" Huafu's eyes instantly focused. "Yes, their aura and the immortal arts they use have this thing." Jiang Chun nodded. The western region, Huafu got up and walked to the middle of the hall. "But this time, I only fought with the Black Poison Sect, and it was with the help of another sect, so I didn't have the chance to investigate further." Jiang Chun walked to her side. "Why are you still in a daze? Let's gather all of our experts and go directly to the Poison Palm Sect." Huafu turned her head and looked at Jiang Chun. She couldn't understand why Jiang Chun was wasting time. "We don't know any sects in the western region. If we bring the experts in the northern region, it will definitely attract the attention of the western region. If there is a conflict between the northern and western regions, we can't bear the responsibility." Jiang Chun frowned slightly. "Then what do you mean?" Huafu calmed down and thought for a while. "Investigate slowly. These sects are already very rampant, and one day I will catch them." Jiang Chun clenched his fists. "What about Hikari? Aren't you afraid that she will be in danger?" Huafu turned to look at Jiang Chun. "I am," Jiang Chun said. The little girl's voice and smiling face appeared in his mind. Jiang Chun wanted to rescue her very much, but if he focused all of his attention on this matter, not only would he not make any progress, but he would even delay other things. Sometimes when Jiang Chun was alone, he would think whether he should go all out for a disciple he had only known for a short time. But when he thought of Hikari's solemn promise that she would protect her master after her cultivation improved in the future, Jiang Chun felt that everything was worth it. Chapter 1893. The next day, after Jiang Chun rested, all the disciples had already gathered in front of the main hall. This was their first day in the sect. Lin Xiao, who was the first to enter the sect, stood in front of everyone. "Is everyone ready?" Jiang Chun looked sideways at Jiang Yuan and asked. "Yes," Jiang Yuan replied. "All disciples, according to the attribute of your immortal power, go to the treasure pavilion in order to find an immortal art suitable for you to cultivate. Each person is only allowed to take one book. If anyone dares to take more than one book, they can leave the sect." Jiang Chun pointed to the treasure pavilion not far from the main hall and said to them, "Yes, young master." Everyone answered excitedly. They all knew that the sect definitely had top immortal arts and techniques. From the moment they entered the sect, they were already looking forward to Jiang Chun's words. "You still haven't given me a direct answer." Huafu looked at Jiang Chun with resentment in her eyes. Last night, when she asked Jiang Chun if they should go all out to save Hikari, Jiang Chun didn't give a direct answer. Instead, he said a few vague words and went back to his room to rest. "Of course we have to save her. The Black Sect ceremony in 3 months will be our chance," Jiang Chun said in a deep voice. "Yes." Huafu was relieved after hearing Jiang Chun's words and didn't continue to ask. More than 300 disciples entered the treasure pavilion in order. Each of them got an immortal art or technique that they liked. Those who cultivated the light attribute or the dark attribute also found suitable ones. Before they joined the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect, they almost couldn't find any suitable techniques for them to cultivate. Even if there were, they were the lowest level. They didn't have the chance to come into contact with those high-level techniques. But it was different now. In the sect's treasure pavilion, there were more than a dozen immortal arts and techniques of these two attributes. Everyone was almost dazzled before they picked one that they were satisfied with. However, when all the disciples gathered in front of the main hall again, a shout suddenly came from outside the sect. "Go and see what's going on?" Jiang Chun walked down the stone steps and said to Lin Xiao. "Yes." Lin Xiao quickly walked to the gate. As soon as he opened the door, a kick came in from outside. Lin Xiao could not dodge in time and was struck in the chest. With a grunt, Lin Xiao flew back and landed beside Jiang Chun. His cultivation was only at the 3rd stage of the Golden Immortal Realm. His chest had caved in, and blood was flowing out of the corner of his mouth. His aura was very weak, and he looked like he was about to die. Young master, Lin Xiao struggled to get up. Seeing him in such a miserable state, Jiang Qin's vigor was completely gone. The originally clear sky was instantly filled with dark clouds, and there was a faint rumble of thunder. Who dares to hurt the disciples of my 10,000 mounts immortal sect? Zhang Yuan and Hua Fu rushed out at the same time. Don't worry. With me here, you'll be fine. Jiang Chun took out a pill from his storage ring and stuffed it into his mouth. Then he waved to the two disciples in front of him and said, "Help him to rest inside. Wait for me to solve the problem in front of me. Then I'll go treat him." With the help of the disciples, Lin Xiao was taken away. Jiang Qin's figure flashed to the gate in an instant, and even the disciples behind did not see it clearly. There were hundreds of people standing outside the gate. "Why did you hurt the disciples of my 10,000 mounts immortal sect?" Jiang Qin narrowed his eyes and asked in a low voice. "Jiang Qin, why did you turn our sect's disciples into your sect's disciples?" One of them pointed at Jiang Qin and shouted, "I admit that your 10,000 mounts immortal sect is strong, but you poached our most talented disciple. How should we settle this account?" "Oh, what do you mean?" Jiang Qin smiled. "Sun Zhou." That person pointed at a person inside the gate and said, "He used to be a disciple of our Wolf Fang gang, but he suddenly disappeared yesterday and entered your 10,000 mounts immortal sect. Shouldn't we go and ask?" "Sun Zhou, were you a member of the Wolf Fang gang?" Jiang Qin turned and asked. "Yes." Sun Zhou stood up and said, "But the Wolf Fang gang is really bad to our disciples. We can't get any useful immortal technique at all. We even have to hand over 80% of the immortal jade that we earned." "Jiang Chun, did you see that? He is a disciple of our Wolf Fang gang." That person sneered, looking like he was going to condemn him. "You're the sect leader?" Jiang Chun turned around and looked at him. "Yes, I am the sect leader of the Wolf Fang gang, Zhou Gu." That person patted his chest, looking very proud. "Go back. Sun Zhou used to be one of your people, but now he has joined our 10,000 mounts immortal sect and is my subordinate. He has nothing to do with you." Jiang Chun was not in the mood to talk nonsense with them. He waved his hand and said impatiently, "Why should we?" As soon as these words came out, even the others were unwilling. 1,000,000 immortal jade per person. In the future, don't come to our 10,000 mounts immortal sect to find trouble. Jiang Chun also knew that this matter was not right, but how could he return the disciples that he had recruited? If this matter spread out in the future, wouldn't the immortal world look at their 10,000 mounts immortal sect as a joke? "How about this, Jiang Chun? Give me 50 million immortal jade, and we will admit defeat." Hearing that there was money to be made, and looking at the imposing 10,000 mounts immortal sect, Zhou Gu directly stretched out 5 fingers to Jiang Chun and said loudly, "We also want 50 million. 2 of my sect's disciples have joined your 10,000 mounts immortal sect. Give me at least 100 million immortal jade." "My sect also has a disciple." 7 or 8 people shouted at the same time. This appearance was clearly looking at Jiang Chun as a fool. "Really?" Jiang Chun suddenly laughed. "How can it be fake? You have recruited the most talented disciples of our respective sections. When they grow up in the future, how can they be measured by immortal jade? 50 million immortal jade is too little. I should ask you for 100 million. Zhou Gu put his hands on his hips, looking as if he would never leave until he got the money. "Oh, where is Guardian Long?" Jiang Chun answered in a low voice, then turned his head and asked. "I'm here." Long Dade came over excitedly. Protector Long's name sounded like it had a lot of status. It sounded much better than Great Virtue. You go to these sects and tell all the disciples that if anyone wants to join the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect, they can participate in the assessment. As long as they are qualified, they can get the top immortal arts in the immortal sect to practice. Jiang Chun said with a smile. "Jiang Chun, what do you mean? You dare to poach people in front of us?" The faces of several sect leaders changed. They did not expect Jiang Chun to be so ruthless. "Nothing special. I just want to let the immortal sect absorb some new blood," Jiang Chun said lightly. Chapter 1894. Jiang Chun, you've gone too far. Several sect masters pointed at Jiang Chun and scolded him. Do you want to join the 10,000 Mounts Front sect? Jiang Chun ignored them completely. Gazing at the hundreds of disciples from different sects and schools standing at the gate, he asked. After hearing Jiang Chun's words, everyone fell into silence. Their clans or sects were unknown in the northern region. They were even exploited and oppressed by their sect masters. At this time, joining the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect was the best choice. What do you mean? Seeing that none of their disciples had scolded Jiang Chun, the other faction lords, led by Zhou Gu, all turned around and asked unhappily, "Can we really join the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect?" The disciples looked at each other and asked in unison. Of course, if you don't qualify to join the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect, I'll arrange for you to join other sections. No matter where you go, it's better than now, Jiang Chun said with a smile. We're willing to take the test, everyone said excitedly. At first, they thought they would offend Jiang Chun by following their sect masters. Who would have thought that it would be an opportunity for them to jump from their current sects to Jiang Chun's subordinates? It would be like a carp jumping over the Dragon Gate. Are you rebelling? The sect masters were furious. They used their celestial arts to get rid of all the trash from the sections. Unfortunately, just as their celestial force flowed out of their bodies, the soul-slaying, spirit-suppressing formation fell from the sky and enveloped them. Feeling the strong celestial force fluctuation in the formation, Zhou Gu and the others' hearts sank. They had heard that Jiang Chun trapped Xian Yi and Xian Air with a formation in Xian Jun Immortal King's Jade Sword sect with a third-stage celestial immortal cultivation. If even such a person could not escape, they naturally had no chance of breaking out. Guardian Longo? Jiang Chun nodded to Long Dade. Long Dade looked at the few people in the array disdainfully and immediately left. Jiang Chun, we are both sect masters of the northern region. Not only did you steal our disciples, you even wanted to kill us. If word of this gets out, you will be condemned by all the cultivators in the northern region. Zhou Gu condensed his immortal power and struck the array formation with all his might. However, he discovered that his full-powered attack was unable to cause any damage to the formation. If you have something good to say, I won't treat you like this. Jiang Chun smiled and said, however, you injured the eldest apprentice brother of the 10,000 Mounts Immortal School as soon as we met. We have to settle this score, don't we? You, Zhou Gu, and the others were speechless. I advise you to stay inside. Otherwise, you might not be able to keep your lives. Zhang Yuan walked to the front of the formation and scolded him in a low voice. Don't go too far. Zhou Gu hammered the barrier hard. Unfortunately, their disciples all followed behind Jiang Chun and entered the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect. And they were like guards locked outside, guarding the gate of the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect for Jiang Chun. Everyone, what should we do? Zhou Gu clenched his fist and said, Jiang Chun is really too much. Relying on the support of an expert, he doesn't put us, small sects, in his eyes. If we just endure it, we will definitely be bullied by him in the future. Sect Master Zhou, what do you say? The others all felt that Zhou Gu dared to confront Jiang Chun and vaguely regarded him as the leader. Zhou Gu glanced at the barrier and said in a deep voice, let's join hands and break through his barrier together. Otherwise, we don't know how long we will be trapped here. That's right. Although that Jiang Chun is strange, his cultivation is only at the third stage of the immortal realm. With the strength of our immortal monarchs, as long as we join hands, we will definitely be able to break through his barrier. Another sect master also spoke. But what can we do if we break through? In Jiang Chun's sect, there are at least 3 or 4 immortal kings. If we dare to find trouble with them, I'm afraid only death awaits us. One of the more cowardly sect masters shuddered. Ever since Jiang Chun ascended from the lower realm, they had heard too much news. It's better than sitting here and waiting for death. Zhou Gu really couldn't swallow this resentment. He condensed all the immortal qi in his body and fiercely bombarded one side of the barrier. Under his all-out attack, the barrier trembled a little but it still did not collapse. With Zhou Gu's attack, the other sect masters also used all their skills. After returning to the sect, Jiang Chen saw that Jiang Yuan had already arranged for the disciples to undergo the assessment. He walked to the front of the disciples and looked at them and said loudly, "I don't care what sect or family you were from before. Since you have entered the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect, you must be loyal to the sect in the future. Whoever dares to have any evil thoughts will be killed immediately." After glancing at them and saying this, Jiang Chen directly rushed into the main hall. None of the disciples present dared to doubt Jiang Chen's words. After all, they had seen the situation in front of the sect just now. The young master was able to trap several Immortal Monarch sect masters with his third-stage Immortal Realm cultivation. The strength hidden under his cultivation was no longer something they could guess. In a room in the main hall, Lin Xiao was helped to the bed by a disciple. Although the elixir saved his life, such a serious injury would not recover in a short time. Young master. Seeing Jiang Chen come in, Lin Xiao struggled to get up from the bed. "Lie down and don't move." Jiang Chen frowned and quickly pressed him down on the bed. "Young master, I'm sorry. I just promised you yesterday that I would become an independent expert of the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect and protect my junior brothers and sisters. I didn't expect to become a cripple today." Lin Xiao sighed. As a cultivator, he knew what his situation was like. Zhou Gu's kick had directly broken all his ribs, and the broken bones had also pierced into his internal organs. Unless he got a top elixir and was treated by a top expert, no one could save his life. Lin Xiao did not know the foundation of the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect. He simply thought that even if Jiang Chen had such power, he was just a golden immortal cultivator. It should not be worth wasting those resources for him. It's rare that you still have the heart to remember this. Don't worry. As long as I'm here, you won't be in any danger. Jiang Chen smiled. With a stroke of his hand, a boundary lingering with green light appeared around Lin Xiao. Feeling a steady stream of vitality and spiritual power gathering in his body, Lin Xiao raised his head in surprise. This immortal technique is called the Divine Protection Boundary. It absorbs the surrounding wood attribute and transforms it into spiritual power that can heal injuries. When you reach the threshold of the beginning of all beginnings, I will teach you. Chapter 1895. Jiang Chen smiled and said, "Young master, I'm just a golden immortal cultivator." Lin Xiao was very touched. When he was helped back by his junior brothers, he had already thought about his ending. He would be kicked out of the sect, or he would continue to live in the sect as a useless person. But he never thought that Jiang Chen would come to the room with the intention of healing him. "So, what if you're a golden immortal? When I first ascended to the immortal realm, I was only an immortal and stayed in the true immortal realm for half a year. Later, I broke through to the divine immortal realm because of a chance encounter. If even I can do it, can't you?" Jiang Chen smiled calmly. Then he helped him to his feet and patted him on the back with his palm. Would attribute immortal power and the power of the Flame Phoenix race's bloodline were infused into Lin Xiao's body. Lin Xiao could clearly feel that the broken ribs that were inserted into his internal organs were slowly melting. His internal injuries were also recovering, and new ribs were slowly growing. "Thank you, young master." After sensing the situation in his body, Lin Xiao immediately sat cross-legged and began to circulate his immortal power to heal his injuries. After about an hour, Jiang Chen removed his hand. "Young master." At this time, Lin Xiao's injuries were completely healed. He suddenly turned over and got off the bed, kneeling on one knee on the ground. He looked at Jiang Chen with determined eyes and said, "I, Lin Xiao, will definitely not betray young master and the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect. No matter what happens in the future, I will protect the sect with my own life." These are all things for later. You should focus on healing your injuries now." Jiang Chen smiled and patted him on the shoulder. "Yes, young master." Lin Xiao got up and replied, "Young master, those sect leaders have joined forces to break through the barrier." Just as Jiang Chen was about to let him continue to heal his injuries, Long Dade pushed the door open and said, "Have you notified the disciples of those sects?" Jiangchen asked. "I've notified them." After those disciples heard the news, they rushed to our 10,000 mounts immortal sect like crazy. Even many elders were tempted. Long Dade replied. Jiangchen tilted his head. From this room, he could see the situation in front of the main hall. Thousands of disciples were gathered at the entrance of the sect, waiting for Jiang Yuan and Huafu to assess them. "Let's go and see what those sect leaders are up to." Jiangchen sneered and was about to turn around and leave. But suddenly, several white figures rushed over. Seeing Bai Xiaoyun and several senior brothers from the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion arrive, Jiangchen walked out of the hall and asked, "Eldest senior brother, what's going on? Isn't your 10,000 mounts immortal sect going to recruit disciples after 3 years? How come there are so many people now?" Bai Xiaoyun frowned at the situation in front of her and said, "I sensed a lot of auras approaching the immortal gate. I thought you had gotten into some trouble again." "There is indeed trouble." Jiangchen explained the situation of those sections. "Go and get rid of them." Bai Xiaoyun looked up and scanned the area. She saw the few people who had just broken through the barrier and were preparing to attack the immortal sect. "Junior brother Jiang, we have helped you so much. You have to treat us to a good meal." The apprentice brothers nodded and smiled at Jiangchen. Then they dashed to the gate. Under the gaze of all the disciples, Zhou Gu and the other sect leaders, who were only immortal monarchs, were quickly killed by several people from the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion. The disciples were dumbfounded. In the past, they had only heard some rumors about the 10,000 mounts immortal sect. But now, several immortal kings had suddenly appeared in the sect. With this strength alone, they could be considered one of the top sects in the northern region. "It's a lot livelier now." Bai Xiaoyun, with her hands behind her back, looked at the lively scene of the 10,000 mounts immortal sect and nodded. Compared to the desolation in the past, there were disciples cultivating, resting, and going in and out of the treasure pavilion. This was more like an immortal sect, not just an empty shell. "Eldest senior brother, Huafu just brought back news from Kunlun Immortal Mountain. In 3 months, the Black Sect will hold a ceremony somewhere in the eastern region." Jiangchen took a deep breath and said slowly, "What ceremony?" The smile on Bai Xiaoyun's face gradually disappeared, and she asked in a deep voice, "I don't know for the time being. Several leaders of Kunlun Immortal Mountain are investigating. I think they should be able to find out something." Jiangchen shook his head and continued, "I'm afraid it's not good news for such an evil and strange sect to hold a ceremony." "Yes." Bai Xiaoyun exhaled a mouthful of turbid air and sighed. "At that time, I'll need the help of the senior brothers and sisters in the pavilion." Jiangchen cupped his fists at Bai Xiaoyun. "What are you talking about?" Bai Xiaoyun reached out and opened Jiangchen's hands, saying, "Although you are now the young master of the 10,000 Mounts Immortal Sect, you still have the identity of the pavilion master of the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion. Besides, it was Master who personally asked me to help and protect you." "Okay." Hearing Bai Xiaoyun's words, Jiangchen didn't say anything more. "Where are you going to send those disciples who didn't pass the assessment?" Bai Xiaoyun saw that only dozens of disciples passed the assessment, and those who didn't pass were standing at the gate. In the western part of the northern region, the Underworld Gang and the Fire Dragon Institution. Jiangchen thought for a while and said, "Won't those 2 sects become garbage collectors?" Bai Xiaoyun couldn't help but laugh. The disciples in these sects were originally weak in cultivation, talent, and strength. It was already not easy to pick dozens of them out of thousands of people. Bai Xiaoyun remembered that these 2 sects in the western part seemed to have joined the 10,000 Mounts Immortal Sect before and were now Jiangchen subordinates. These disciples are indeed not qualified for the 10,000 Mounts Immortal Sect, but the Underworld Gang and the Fire Dragon Institution are not much better than these sections. When the time comes, let Hu Shuo and Zhu Zhong choose the disciples they like. As for the others, just give them some immortal jades and let them go." Jiangchen said with a smile with his hands behind his back. "Now you are more and more like a sect master." Bai Xiaoyun looked at Jiangchen with satisfaction. It had only been a short time since Jiangchen first came to the Heaven's Secret Pavilion. However, Jiang Chun was improving at a speed visible to the naked eye. If she let Jiang Chun be the sect master just to cheat him. Now, all the disciples of the Heaven's Secret Pavilion, including Bai Xiaoyan, were convinced. Eldest senior brother, don't make fun of me. Jiang Chun shook his head. He only felt that the pressure on his shoulder was getting heavier and heavier, and it almost made him breathless. What are you going to do in 3 months? Seeing Jiang Chun frowning, Bai Xiaoyan changed the topic. Destroy his ceremony and save Hikari. Jiang Chun said in a deep voice. His tone was so firm that it didn't allow anyone to deny it. Okay. Bai Xiaoyan put her hand on his shoulder. Chapter 1896. It took nearly 4 hours for these disciples to be selected. There were close to 4,000 disciples from the 5 sects, including those who came later. However, only less than 100 people were selected from this group. After they were incorporated into the Immortal Sect, there were now 400 disciples in the 10,000 Mounts Immortal Sect. These people had all passed the assessment, and each of them had a certain talent and cultivation. As for the rest, Jiang Chun asked them to go to the western part of the northern region to find the Underworld Gang and the Fire Dragon Hall. As for the corpses of the sect leaders, they were thrown into the mountains on the west side of the Immortal Sect and became the dinner of the wild beasts. I'll give you a month to practice the immortal skills of the sect. After a month, everyone will enter the mountains on the right side of the Immortal Sect and survive for 7 days. Those who can come out safely will be qualified to enter the overseas immortal graveyard. Jiang Chun glanced at them and said in a deep voice, The mountains? Jiang Chen's words gave them a good scare. After entering the Immortal Sect for 2 days, they had investigated the surrounding situation clearly. The mountains on the west side could be said to be the longest mountain range in the entire western region. It connected from the 10,000 Mounts Immortal Sect to the Kunlun Immortal Mountain and then to the nearby eastern region. Even in the Immortal Sect, they could still feel the fluctuations from the wild beasts in the mountains from time to time. Among this group of disciples, the general strength was around the genuine immortal and golden immortal level. The strongest was only a fairy immortal. With their strength, it was really difficult for them to go into the mountains to face the wild beasts who had cultivated for countless years. However, they did not dare to disobey Jiang Chen's words. Young master, what is the overseas immortal graveyard? Compared to the mountains, they were more interested in this place that they had never heard of. You can understand it as an area that contains a lot of treasures. Anything you get from there will belong to you. He had just ascended to the immortal realm and entered the overseas immortal graveyard. It had only been a short time, but now it seemed to be a lifetime ago. Understood. Everyone nodded in agreement, excited. Disperse. After that, Jiang Chun waved at them, bringing Jiang Chun, Huafu, and the others back to the Great Hall. Jiang Chun once again told them about the Black Gate ceremony. Like Bai Xiaoyan, everyone in the Pavilion of Heavenly Secrets immediately patted their chests and promised to help before he even finished speaking. A month passed in the blink of an eye. Other than occasionally returning to the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion to deal with 2 or 3 matters, Jiang Chun spent most of his time in the Immortal Sect. In order to improve the cultivation of these disciples, he even transferred a few immortal kings from the overseas immortal mountains to stay and let them impart their skills. Under the dual effects of the immortal arts and techniques of the immortal sects and the guidance of the immortal king, the cultivation of this group of disciples improved and their strength also increased greatly. Are we really going to let them enter the forest? Bai Xiaoyan said worriedly. There are many powerful wild beasts living in this forest. There are even a few that are above the immortal monarch realm. With their strength, I'm afraid it will be dangerous. If it's not dangerous, we might as well serve them well. Looking at these disciples, Jiang Chun knew that many of them would die in the forest. Entering the 10,000 Mounts Immortal Sect, I really don't know if they're lucky or unlucky. Bai Xiaoyan sighed and clicked her tongue. Under Jiang Chen's command, hundreds of figures rushed to the west and plunged into the mountains. The sect masters of the overseas immortal mountains also returned to the Great Hall. They glanced at each other. Young Master Jiang, Can you let the disciples of our immortal mountains cultivate with the disciples of your immortal sect? Mei Yu of the Charm sect stood up and asked Jiangchen. Sect Master Mei Wai? Jiangchen asked with a smile. Our overseas immortal mountains are now considered to belong to your 10,000 mounts immortal sect. Our disciples also want to enter the immortal graveyard. Mei Yu bit her lip. Yes, young Master Jia. If the strength of our overseas immortal mountains disciples increases, it's ultimately still your strength. Gao Yuan stood up and said somewhat embarrassedly. Since the last time he had a conflict with Jiangchen, he had not dared to face Jiangchen. But now, Jiangchen had the ability to open the overseas immortal graveyard on his own. If he did not take the opportunity to enter, wouldn't it be a waste? You all also have the same idea? Jiangchen looked at the other sect masters. They did not speak, but their eyes were very fiery. All right, mobilize the disciples of your various sects, but each sect only has a quota of 20 disciples. Thinking that he would need these experts from the overseas immortal mountains in the future, Jiangchen could not refuse their request. Many thanks, young Master Jiang. Everyone stood up together and cupped their hands towards Jiangchen. Several sect masters walked to the entrance of the Great Hall and sent the news to their respective sections. 10 minutes later, 100 disciples gathered here. Jiangchen briefly explained the situation to them, and this group of people plunged into the deep mountains. Mei Yu and the others breathed a sigh of relief, and some mocked the other sect masters who did not come. 3 months ago, Jiangchen sent people to the overseas immortal graveyard and asked 5 sect masters to come to the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect to help train the disciples. Only the 5 of them came, and the others pretended to be dead because they were afraid of trouble. But now it seemed that their 3 months of hard work had not been in vain. Once the disciples could get any treasure from the overseas immortal graveyard, it would be a huge profit. Young master, I want to go too. Just as Jiangchen was about to go back and rest, Lin Xiao walked out. Where are you going? Jiangchen frowned and asked. Of course I'm going to the deep mountains. I'm the eldest senior brother. How can I not abide by the rules of the immortal sect? Lin Xiao coughed twice. Although he had recovered from his injuries with the help of Jiangchen, he still needed a long time to recuperate. You don't have to participate this time. When the time comes, follow them to the overseas immortal graveyard. Jiangchen said in a deep voice. Young master, I have to go. As the eldest senior brother, I can't let them look down on me. Lin Xiao shook his head very firmly. Are you sure? Seeing his honest look, Jiangchen asked. Yes. Lin Xiao nodded heavily. Go. But protect yourself first. Jiangchen couldn't persuade him and could only relent. After getting Jiangchen's permission, Lin Xiao took a deep breath and rushed to the west. Young Master Jiang has accepted a good disciple. Mei Yu covered her mouth and chuckled. He is the eldest senior brother of the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect. If he doesn't have a good appearance, I'm afraid he won't be able to convince the masses. Jiangchen chuckled, but a moment later, he looked slightly worried. It's just that these people are not bad. I'm worried that they won't be convinced by each other and might cause trouble. Long after thinking for a while, Jiangchen said. Chapter 1897. I'll keep an eye on them. Before Jiangchen had finished speaking, Long Dade had already dashed out. Everyone, do you want to return to the overseas immortal mountains or wait at the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect? Jiangchen turned to look at the sect masters in the main hall and asked. Let's wait here. Mei Yu smiled faintly. Jiangchen didn't continue speaking. Instead, he sat on a chair and closed his eyes to rest. The sect masters sat together very quietly. They didn't dare to disturb Jiangchen. Everyone didn't say a word, but in fact, they were all sensing the situation in the deep forest. They were all worried that their disciples would really encounter danger inside. At night, apart from the light in the main hall, the entire 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect had already blended into the darkness. All of a sudden, a strange wave of energy came over. Everyone, including Jiangchen, instantly opened their eyes. After rushing out of the main hall, they all looked toward the deep mountains in the west. Over there, everyone sensed that something was wrong. Young Master Jiang? What's going on? The sect masters of the overseas immortal mountains all looked at Jiang Chun. The 20 disciples sent out by the various sects were all the most talented juniors. Once they encountered trouble, it would be a devastating blow to each sect. Could it be that they encountered a 10,000-year-old spirit beast? Jiang Chun frowned slightly. Now, he had integrated the dual bloodlines of the bathing fire phoenix and the sky-swallowing golden dragon. He could be considered half a spirit beast. Naturally, he could sense the fluctuation of spirit beasts. But when he said this, Jiang Chun shook his head. No, it doesn't seem like the fluctuation of spirit beasts. There are cultivators inside, and they are above the immortal lord level. Young Master Jiang, Mei Chenyu, Gao Yuan, and the others clenched their fists. I'm afraid that an enemy has come. Jiang Chen's eyes darkened. As soon as he finished speaking, his figure suddenly disappeared in front of the main hall. Behind him, Zhang Yuan, Hua Fu, and the 5 sect masters of the overseas immortal mountains followed together. In the darkness, the 8 of them landed in the deep forest. Before they could get close, Jiang Chen saw a disciple lying in front of him, struggling in pain. Sun Zhou? Seeing the person in front of him, Jiang Chen quickly squatted down and helped him up. Young Master, I'm afraid our 10,000 mounts immortal sect's disciples are in danger. Sun Zhou panted heavily. On his chest, there was a scarlet handprint. What's going on? Jiang Chen asked. We were originally hunting low-level beasts in the deep forest and avoiding the attacks of high-level beasts. We didn't expect that a group of people would suddenly rush in. The other party's strength was very strong. We were not a match for them at all. Our fellow apprentices were all scattered. After Sun Zhou finished speaking, his head tilted to the side and he fainted. Jiang Chen reached out and pressed his hand on his neck. Knowing that he had not lost his life and was only severely injured, Jiang Chen heaved a sigh of relief. 6 immortal kings and 12 immortal monarchs. Bai Xiaoyan sensed the situation in the forest and said in a deep voice, "What kind of power has so many experts?" After hearing Bai Xiaoyan's words, the sect masters of the overseas immortal mountain looked at each other in surprise. Sects like the Heaven Secret Pavilion only had a few immortal kings. Moreover, there were experts like Bai Xianling who had stepped into the half-step immortal emperor realm. Crack! Jiang Chen took out a white crystal from his storage ring and crushed it. Everyone, follow me inside to see the situation. Jiang Chen stood up and felt the fluctuation of immortal qi from the deep mountain. His whole body was instantly surrounded by an icy aura. In these 3 months, besides watching the disciples cultivate, Jiang Chen also used this time to comprehend the Ice Seal immortal technique in the Ice Soul-Chilling Pearl. And this time, it was the best time to give it a try. While Jiang Chen led his companions into the depths of the mountains, Bai Xiaoyan gathered all of her apprentice brothers in the Immortal King realm at the 10,000 Mounts Immortal School, which was thousands of miles away, and approached it. In the deep mountain, dozens of disciples huddled in a pit, holding their breath and daring not to make any noise. They all knew that the gap between their strength and the opponents was too big, not to mention fighting back. Even if they were brushed by the opponent's immortal qi, they would be seriously injured or even killed. You can't hide from it. A black figure appeared above the crater. He condensed a ball of black flame in his hand and threw it into the pit. These disciples knew that they were no match for the opponent, but they still tried their best to stop it. They knew that as long as they could hold on until the young master and the elders arrived, they would be safe. Ha! A mantis trying to stop a chariot. The man sneered. His words were full of disdain. Just as the black flame was about to fall into the pit, a barrier suddenly appeared in front of them and blocked the flame. Who are you? Jiang Chen rushed over and stood above the pit, looking at the man in front of him. Sensing that Jiang Chen's cultivation was only at the immortal realm, the black-robed man sneered. You're just a third-level immortal realm cultivator. How dare you be so arrogant in front of me? His words showed that he didn't take Jiang Chen seriously. Young master, be careful. This person's strength is unfathomable. Blocked by the immortal power screen, The dozens of disciples heaved a sigh of relief. However, they were still worried about Jiangchen. Let me guess. Are you from the outer region or the western region? Jiangchen put his hands behind his back. He was no match for the man in front of him, but with a myriad transformation celestial lamp, the man couldn't do anything to him. What he needed to do was to delay the immortal king until the senior brothers of the divination pavilion arrived. Oh, you know about the outer region? The black-robed man was a little surprised. Then you're from the western region. Jiangchen smiled and said, you should be one of the sects close to the Poison Palm sect. 6 immortal kings and more than a dozen immortal dukes. I don't know if this is the strength of a single sect or a joint force of several sections. Sensing that everyone had been stopped by Jiangchen and the others, Jiangchen looked at the man in front of him and asked with a smile, boy, you know too much. I wanted to keep you alive, but now it seems that I have no choice but to kill you. The black-robed man gradually became angry. Kill me? Didn't the sect leader of the black sect say that it's still useful to keep me alive? Jiangchen laughed. He changed the seal in his hand, and a cold aura instantly filled the air. Seal of ice. Immortal chi spread out. Even with Jiangchen's third-level immortal cultivation, the immortal kings were greatly affected. The dozen immortal dukes even felt that the immortal chi in their bodies was about to freeze. They could only circulate it madly in an attempt to break through. The sect leader of the black sect? The black-robed man laughed angrily. In front of me, he's just a good-for-nothing who can't do anything right. Jiangchen's expression froze. As far as he knew, the sect leader of the black sect should be above the Poison Palm sect. Chapter 1898. The words of the man in front of him broke Jiangchen's previous impression. Could it be that the sects in the western region were more terrifying than the black sect in the outer region? The strength of the black poison sect was clearly so weak. This was something that he could not fathom. Boy, take your doubts and disappear from the immortal world. The black-robed man let out a sharp and ear-piercing laugh. As his sleeves danced, a huge disc appeared in front of him. Sure enough, Jiangchen's brows did not relax at all. He could also sense the black plague from the disc. The man in front of him was probably the same as the Black Sect Master, who was inextricably linked to the Black Sky Emperor. The only thing he didn't know was what kind of relationship he had with the Black Sect Master. You filthy things! How dare you openly hurt people under the eyes of the Heavenly Secret Pavilion? Do you really not put us in your eyes? Several white figures cut through the night sky and landed in the deep forest. Bai Xiaoyan flung his sleeves and stood in front of Jiangchen. When did the Heavenly Secret Pavilion have so many immortal kings? Looking at the dozens of people who appeared in front of Jiangchen in an instant, the black-robed man finally had some fear. According to his investigation, the Heavenly Secret Pavilion only had a relatively strong pavilion master. As for the others, they were all immortal monarchs. But now, standing in front of him were all immortal kings. Little junior brother, who is he? Bai Xiaoyan tilted his head and asked in a low voice. Let's go back first. Jiangchen was also very confused. Since you dared to hurt the disciples of the 10,000 Mounts Immortal Sect, you will stay here forever. Junior brothers, go help the sect master of the Immortal Mountain overseas. Bai Xiaoyan crossed his hands and immediately separated them. The snow-white long sword floating in front of him buzzed and immediately scattered into 3 long swords. Eldest senior brother, this person's cultivation is very strong. You must be careful and not underestimate him. Jiangchen looked at the black disc in his hand and said in a low voice, Okay. Bai Xiaoyan nodded. Under his control, the 3 long swords attacked the black-robed man from different directions. The black-robed man stood in the air as the black disc continued to move around his body, blocking all of Bai Xiaoyan's attacks. Your swordsmanship has a hint of Immortal King Xian Jun's style. It's a pity that your divination pavilion isn't his sect. Otherwise, I would have to be wary of you. After easily blocking Bai Xiaoyan's attack, that person sneered disdainfully and the disc directly bombarded Bai Xiaoyan. Seeing such a swift and violent attack, Bai Xiaoyan quickly gathered all three swords in front of her. The immortal energy in his body circulated wildly and collided fiercely with the disc. At the moment of contact, Bai Xiaoyan spat out a mouthful of blood, and her aura instantly weakened. Eldest senior brother, Jiang Chen rushed over and caught Bai Xiaoyan, who was falling from the sky. Seeing that the disc was still coming towards him, he changed his hand seals, and a thick wall of earth rose up from the depths of the mountain. Pa! Originally, he had hit the earth wall, but even Bai Xiaoyan was not his match, and Jiang Chen's immortal technique was even more useless. The earth wall only blocked a little and was broken in less than a breath. Jiang Chen turned sideways and was ready to take the attack head-on. Now that Bai Xiaoyan was already injured, if she took another hit, her life would be in danger. And he had the bloodline power of the Flame Phoenix clan, so he could enter the origin fire to be reborn. Although it might take thousands of years, it was better than losing Bai Xiaoyan. Youngest junior brother, Bai Xiaoyun's eyes widened. Eldest senior brother, this time I will protect you. Jiang Chen's eyes were firm, and his tone was deep, not giving her the slightest chance to refute. Boom! The black disc bombarded Jiang Chen's body at an extremely fast speed. The residual force caused dozens of disciples in the deep pit to be injured. But they were all still looking up at the sky. Everyone clenched their fists and gritted their teeth. Jiang Chen was not only protecting Bai Xiaoyan, but also protecting them. After a while, Jiang Chen opened his eyes. He knew that with his strength, he would at least be seriously injured if he took the attack of the black-robed man. He even held the crystal that Huoxian gave him in his hand and was ready to let Huoxian take him back to the Flame Phoenix clan. But when the disc hit him, Jiang Chen strangely found that he was not affected at all. He opened his eyes, and his body was surrounded by a faint white light. At the same time, he also sensed a familiar wave of energy. Jiang Chen looked up suddenly and saw a figure overlapping with the moon in the sky above the deep forest. Her white robe was fluttering, and she looked like an immortal. Damn, this dog is acting cool again. Jiang Chen could not help but curse, but he did feel relieved. Who are you? The black-robed man also felt that something was wrong. You hurt my disciple, and you don't know who I am? Bai Xuanling's figure suddenly appeared in front of him. She glanced sideways at Jiang Chen and Bai Xiaoyan and sneered. Bai Xuanling, you are from the Divine Secret Pavilion? The black-robed man looked at the person in front of him and was surprised. You know me? It seems that I should know you too. Bai Xuanling suddenly stretched out her hand. Her palm shattered the space in front of her. Crack! The space beside the black-robed man suddenly shattered and a hand stretched out from it. Bam! The hand slapped his shoulder. Suddenly, a violent wave hit him. This palm directly smashed his left shoulder into smithereens. You are indeed one of the three celestial kings. After feeling the pain, the black-robed man took 2 steps forward. Black fog gushed out from his body and then disappeared in the deep forest. He knew that he was no match for Bai Xuanling. If he stayed here, he would definitely die. The moment his aura disappeared, those celestial kings and celestial kings who were fighting with the overseas celestial mountain sect leaders and the disciples of the Divine Secret Pavilion all stopped and fell to the ground stiffly. Tisk, you are forced to this extent. Bai Xuanling did not chase after them. Instead, she walked to Jiang Chen and checked on Bai Xiaoyan's condition. Then, she could not help but mock. If you had not acted cool up there, senior brother would not have been injured. Jiang Chen looked at her and said, Damn, I just came back. After I sensed that something had happened to you, I hurried over. Now you are blaming me? Bai Xuanling seemed to have been stepped on by someone. Jiang Chen, they are all puppets. Zhang Yuan dragged the black-robed men back and threw one of them in front of Jiang Chen. Then he pulled down the black mask forcefully. Beneath the mask was a body that had long decayed and a pair of empty eyes. Is this a trick of the corpse cliff? Jiang Chen rubbed his fingers. I did not expect this person to have Celestial King-level puppets. It seems that he is not from an ordinary sect. Bai Xuanling also became serious. She raised her hand, and a ray of white light appeared. Chapter 1899. Under the effect of his immortal energy, dozens of puppets disappeared from the world. Let's go back to the immortal sect. Jiang Qin took a deep breath and said to the disciples who were gathering around him. After half an hour, everyone returned to the 10,000 Mounts immortal sect. Out of the 400 disciples of the immortal sect, nearly 50 of them were killed and 200 of them were injured. As for the disciples of the immortal mountain, only 40 out of 100 of them returned. All the sect masters were heartbroken, but there was nothing they could do. After all, it wasn't just their sect that suffered. Even Jiang Qin's disciples were killed. Your sect is much grander than our heaven's secret pavilion. Bai Xinling walked in front of everyone with his hands behind his back and looked at the newly built 10,000 Mounts immortal sect. Suddenly, he turned around and said, "Little Qinzi, as one of the 3 great immortal kings, only a sect like this is worthy of me. Why don't we switch sects? Why don't you bring your disciples to live in the divination pavilion?" "Are you dreaming?" Jiang Chun helped Bai Xiaoyan up and rolled his eyes at him. "It's okay if you don't. You are the young sect master of the 10,000 Mounts immortal sect and the pavilion master of the heaven's secret pavilion. These 2 sects have merged into one and are closely related. Naturally, this is my place." After entering the main hall, Bai Xinling sat in the middle seat. "Dade, go to the Heaven and Earth Pharmacy and ask Elder Lin to send some people over. Remember to bring enough elixirs and herbs. If they don't have enough, go to the Ganges Bank and Heaven's Bank to get them. They must be back by tomorrow morning." Jiang Qin carefully helped Bai Xiaoyan to sit on the chair. "I'll go with you," Zhang Yuan said as he wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. "Can you hold on?" Jiang Qin asked. When they were in the forest, he had seen Zhang Yuan stop an immortal king puppet by himself, and he was afraid that Zhang Yuan's injuries weren't light. "No problem. Our immortal ape race recovers very quickly. This little injury is nothing to me." Zhang Yuan patted his chest to show that he was fine. Come back quickly." Jiang Qin nodded and said, "You fellows should head back as well. Tomorrow, I will send someone to the immortal mountain in the ocean to deliver medicinal pills to you fellows. This is my fault. I've caused you fellows to suffer." "Young Lord Jiang, please don't say that." Mei Chun Yu waved her hands in fear. "That's right, young Master Jiang. We can only blame ourselves for not being strong enough to protect our disciples," Gao Yuan added. After exchanging some pleasantries, the 5 sect masters left the 10,000 Mounts immortal sect with their respective disciples. As for Hua Fu, Bai Xiaolan, and the other immortal kings, they went with the uninjured disciples to take care of the injured disciples. This time it should be because of the trouble you caused after the 10,000 Mounts immortal sect reappeared in the immortal world. There were only 3 people left in the spacious hall. Therefore, Bai Xinling did not hesitate to speak. "Back then, it was the 3 of you who worked together to suppress my father and destroy the 10,000 Mounts immortal sect. Could it be that you are Guhua or Xianjun's people?" Jiang Chun snorted coldly. "Of course not. Back then, we had no choice but to act." Bai Xinling shook her head firmly. "I suspect that it might be related to my trip to the western region some time ago. In the past 10,000 years, several strange clans have appeared there. Maybe I exposed myself." Jiang Qin pondered. But before he could finish his words, doubts emerged in his heart. "But the sect master of the Black Sect once said that he needed me as a bargaining chip. But today, this person violated the agreement and wanted to kill me directly. And he even treated the sect master of the Black Sect as a piece of sh*t. Bai Xiaoyan coughed violently and added, "That's right." Jiang Qin nodded. "He wanted to kill Xiaoyan, but you stopped him. Later on, I also saved you guys, so it's not considered a violation." Bai Xinling analyzed. "But if this person wanted to kill you, he could have asked those puppets of the immortal lords to do it." Bai Xiaoyan's face suddenly turned black. A mouthful of dirty blood spurted out from his mouth. "Xiaoyan, eldest senior brother." Seeing his situation, Jiang Chun and Bai Xinling were a little flustered. "I feel like there are 10,000 kinds of poisonous insects biting my body." Bai Xiaoyan clutched his chest tightly. His breathing was very weak. "Black plague." Seeing that his situation was similar to Huaxian's, Jiang Chun quickly sent him to the room and removed his clothes. On Bai Xiaoyun's chest and back, there were already black lines growing. What a vicious method. Bai Xianling walked over and slapped Bai Xiaoyun's back. Can it work? Jiang Chen asked. F***CK. Your daddy here is one of the 3 great immortal kings. If I can't even deal with such a small problem, what's the use of my title? Bai Xianling mumbled as he channeled all the immortal energy in his body into Lin Fan. Under his pure light attribute immortal force, Bai Xiaoyun's face recovered at a speed visible to the naked eye. After a while, Bai Xiaoyun suddenly coughed violently. Then, he coughed out a cloud of black smoke from his mouth. Pfft. Bai Xianling reacted quickly and immediately used his immortal force to burn it. Let him rest for a while. Bai Xianling helped him to lie down slowly and then got up and left the room. Jiang Chen followed him out. Have you found my mother's whereabouts in the unknown region? Since there were only 2 of them, Jiang Chen did not hide and asked directly. No. Bai Xianling shrugged. You can say that I have found her, but your mother has been deliberately avoiding me. With my strength, I can't pinpoint her exact location, so it ended in failure. You came back without finding her? Jiang Chen was a little disappointed. I feel that it might be because my cultivation is not enough. The unknown region is very desolate, and there are even ancient. Bai Xianling sighed and said subconsciously. But soon, he realized that he had spilled the beans and quickly shut his mouth. Jiang Chen did not continue to ask, knowing that they would not tell him the real situation. Everyone said that the unknown region was a desolate place, but Jiang Chen clearly dreamt that his mother was living on an immortal mountain, and it seemed to be in a sect. Cough, cough, don't blame me for not telling you. There are some things that you can't know now. Bai Xianling coughed awkwardly and said, I'll go back and cultivate in seclusion. If there's anything, I'll show myself. But don't disturb me if it's a small matter. Ming. Before Jiang Chen could answer, Bai Xuanling's figure had already disappeared. Back in the room, Jiang Chen looked at the unconscious Bai Xiaoyun and closed his eyes, thinking carefully about what the black-robed man said. Chapter 1900. The next morning, the people of Heaven and Earth Pharmacy, Ganges Bank, and Heavenly Province Bank all rushed to the 10,000 Mounts Immortal Sect. Young Master is resting inside. Please wait inside for a while. Huafu stood outside the door and said, What's going on? I heard Protector Long say that the Immortal Sect was attacked by an expert. Lin Baichao walked in front of everyone. After seeing Huafu, he quickly asked, Where is Young Master? Is he seriously injured? Great Elder Lin, didn't I tell you that Young Master is fine? The ones injured are the senior brother of Tianji Pavilion and the newly recruited disciples of the 10,000 Mounts Immortal Sect. Zhang Yuan explained helplessly. Since he went to Heaven and Earth Pharmacy, Lin Baichao had asked him at least a dozen times. You go save the others. I want to see Young Master personally. Seeing that Huafu did not speak, Lin Baichao walked into the hall. Jiang Chen was not only the Young Master of the 10,000 Mounts Immortal Sect, but also the Young Master of their 1,000 Mounts Sect. If there was a problem, they could not bear the responsibility. This old man, looking at Lin Baichao's skinny back, Huafu could not help but sigh. He has always regarded Young Master as very important. Zhang Yuan entertained the people of Ganges Bank and Heavenly Province Bank and sent all the pills and herbs they gathered together to the sect. When Jiang Chen woke up, it was already close to noon. Yawning, Jiang Chen opened the door and walked into the hall. When he looked up, he saw Lin Baichao standing in the middle of the hall. Great Elder Lin? Jiang Chen rubbed his eyes and said, Great Elder Lin, when did you arrive? Early morning. Lin Baichao immediately walked over and looked at Jiang Chen. After seeing that Jiang Chen was not injured and his aura was not fluctuating, he was relieved. However, he still took out a pill from his storage ring and stuffed it into Jiang Chen's mouth. What? Jiang Chen was caught off guard and swallowed it directly. A life-saving pill. Lin Baichao said, Great Elder Lin, I'm not injured. I invited you here because most of the newly recruited disciples are injured. I'm here to treat their injuries. Jiang Chen said, not knowing whether to laugh or cry as he patted his chest and dissolved the medicine. I don't care about the others. We can recruit new disciples, but if something happens to you, we won't be able to answer to Emperor Qianji after we die, and we don't know how many thousands of years it will take for another young master to appear. Lin Baichao shook his head firmly. Thank you for your concern, great Elder Lin. Jiangchen was touched. He hurriedly cupped his hands and thanked him. Young master, I know that the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect is recruiting disciples. Could it be that someone is looking for trouble? Lin Baichao pulled Jiang Chen's hand to sit down and asked in a low voice, but this place is not far from the Heaven Secrets Pavilion. The immortal kings of the Heaven Secrets Pavilion should have come to help. I did, Jiang Chen said honestly. Oh. Lin Baichao frowned. The wrinkles on his face squeezed together. Could it be that immortal king Xianjun came to find trouble? Thinking back to the day when the 10,000 Mounts Immortal sect was established, immortal king Xianjun and the Flame Phoenix race's Xianhua clan leader had some conflict. Lin Baichao naturally suspected him. Immortal king Xianjun wouldn't dare to find trouble. Jiangchen smiled and explained. With Bai Xianling and Guhua backing him up, even if his Jade Sword sect were to be destroyed, Xianjun would still have to consider carefully before making a move on him. It's not Xianjun. Could it be that there's some hidden sect that has a grudge with the young masters? Lin Baichao analyzed carefully. Great Elder Lin, it would be too troublesome to talk about this matter. When there's time in the future, I will definitely explain it clearly. But for now, you can rest assured that there won't be any danger. Jiangchen knew that the Western region's matters couldn't be explained in just 2 or 3 sentences. All right, since the young master doesn't want to talk about it, I won't ask anymore. I'll go and treat the disciples in the sect first. Lin Baichao didn't continue asking. Thank you for your hard work, great Elder Lin. Jiangchen nodded and watched him leave the main hall. Under the arrangement of Hua Fu and Jiang Yuan, the new disciples in the immortal sect were receiving treatment one after another. A portion of the elixirs were also sent to the immortal mountains overseas. Jiangchen walked around the sect and returned to Bai Xiaoyun's room. Looking at the person lying on the bed, Jiangchen felt extremely guilty. With Bai Xiaoyun's strength, if it wasn't to protect him, how could she have ended up in such a state? How are the other disciples in the immortal sect? Bai Xiaoyun opened her eyes slowly, looking extremely weak. I've already invited great Elder Lin Baichao of the Heaven and Earth Pharmacy over. With him around, the disciples won't be a problem. Jiangchen stood by the bed and answered honestly. This black plague is really terrifying. Even an immortal king like me can become like this, let alone cultivators with weaker strength. Bai Xiaoyun supported herself with both hands on the bed and sat up with difficulty. It was Master who used his immortal energy to force the black plague out of your body. Jiangchen explained. Yes, otherwise I'm afraid I'd be dead now. Bai Xiaoyun nodded and got off the bed. Where's Master? Did he just come back to take a look and then disappear again? He said he needed to go into seclusion and has already returned to the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion. Jiangchen followed behind her, afraid that she would fall. Little junior brother, this incident proves that we didn't have a thorough understanding of the Black Sect and its sect master. In the Western region, there might be other forces that aren't weaker than them. Bai Xiaoyun sighed and said helplessly, I'm also thinking about this matter. Among the sects in the Western region, I'm afraid the Black Poison sect is the weakest. The Black-Robed Man's cultivation should be around the 4th or 5th tier of the Immortal King realm. Just the fact that he can mobilize 5 Immortal King puppets is enough to prove his strength. Jiangchen took a deep breath. In this case, although the Black Sect's sect master's cultivation was very strong, his subordinates were all useless subsects, and their strength was just SOSO. I'm afraid I won't be able to help you much in the next few months. Bai Xiaoyun supported herself against the wall and was about to mobilize her immortal energy. A feeling of weakness that reached the depths of her soul suddenly emerged, making her lose all her strength. Her body tilted, and she almost fell to the ground. With the senior brothers of the Heavenly Mysteries Pavilion and the immortal kings of the overseas immortal mountains, eldest senior brother should focus on recuperating. As for other things, don't worry about them for the time being. Seeing this, Jiangchen hurriedly went forward to support her. Okay. Bai Xiaoyan nodded weakly. Supporting her back to the room, Jiangchen watched Bai Xiaoyan fall into a deep sleep again before leaving. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.